as far as I know. I think it's the same thing, really, but there's TED or TEDx.
This is TEDx, so
Yeah.
I assume it is TEDx. Whatever X means when you add it onto TED.
I don't know. Honestly, TED is an interesting system where people come about to say their 5 minutes of fame, and voila, here we go. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining up. And with me is a few new guys that we haven't seen before in a while. It's been like a few days. We haven't done this in a while. Oh boy, so much has gone over. I don't know what about you guys, but celebrating my nieces and nephew's birthday, that was fun. Oh boy.
More fun than our D&D session. Huh?
I'm sorry I missed that. I really apologize.
It's fine. If you would have said, I'm sure we could have moved the date.
Yeah, you missed a lot of murder.
Oh really?
Yeah, a lot of murder. And Wilder died, and then I took his flamethrower.
Oh dear, that was like the most effective weapon ever. It's like you missed.
It was. This is where he died. He took out like 2 groups of people by himself. And
he
then
took out everyone. He went in, he took out everyone, and then I took out 2 people.
I wish I was equipped with the flamethrower. That's just, you miss, you still hit. It's amazing. It just, everything lights on fire.
Are you really complaining when you have that sword that you used to murder so many people?
Well, that's a precision weapon. I mean,
you've killed a lot more people than me. I was running about just not hitting anything.
In case anyone knows what we're talking about, it's a D&D session we're doing. We're not actually murdering or lighting people on fire, so don't worry.
No, of course we are.
That you know of.
Yeah. The D&D sessions are being uploaded on my channel in the description, and I also have animated versions which are incredibly fun.
They are fun to watch, yes. Shiny is very good at animation and modeling and doing various things in visual graphics, so everyone check out Shiny's channel. Okay. All right, here we are. We're talking about social justice, belonging in the classroom. And this is from a TEDx Talks, the YouTube channel. This is 26 million subscribers. And this was done in February 16, 2018. Only 32,000 views, which is very strange for something with 26 million subs. So,
well, I assume it's kind of like, like Watch Mojo and like things like that. We're like big channels, but not a lot of people, despite their large subscriptions, they get relatively low views based on compared to their subscription amount.
Yeah, they're like a big generic sub count for just everything. It's like TED Talks can do anything. The same with Watch Mojo. They can cover anything. Movies, videos, comic books, video games. It's all over the place. So
top 10 viruses by Watch Mojo.
Yeah, that's why it's kind of strange. It's fun. Like they do really good content of making video, but it's random. So like, oh, I don't really want to watch that or that or that. And then it's like, oh, cool.
It's kind of like the Marvel Entertainment YouTube channel where they have like almost 14 million subscribers, but after 2 or 3 days or something like that, each video gets around maybe 100,000 views or so, 200,000 maybe 400,000 on a good day.
Which is more than I've ever had, but still very small compared to their YouTube subscription basic amount.
Anyhow, before we start, I'd like to say thank you to Dale Franks as a new member to Smud Boy. I've been chatting with him on Twitter for a while. He has his own website. Check it out. Dale Franks, say hello in the chat if you're there, sir. You don't have to if you're shy. It's fine. But longtime friend online. So thanks, Dale. Anywho, we've got a 17-minute-and-a-half video for you guys. So sit back, relax, have some water, have a drink. Some of us will have something stronger just because this is tough to go through it for some people. But hey, we're here for you, so I don't know. So you could watch it with us. I don't know how to.
I'm trying to cut down on the drink.
Whatever you need to get through the day. Okay.
Social justice. What do you think of?
It's a little quiet.
To me, social justice is a simple concept. It's the notion that all people...
I don't think she wants to ask me what I think of social justice. Bad idea.
What is the definition anyway? Does anyone know?
Oh, well, we can look up the definition.
I know, but does anyone actually have a working definition? Like one that makes sense?
Lunatics.
I just kind of replace this word social justice with, like, I don't know, tyranny or something.
Tyranny.
So
Modern vigilante justice.
this might also be the older interpretation of social justice, because the term social justice has changed. So, like, modern social justice is not the same as older social justice. So, according to Wiki, social justice is a fair and just relations between individuals and societies as measured by the distribution of wealth, opportunities for personal activity, and social privileges. In the Western, as well as other Asian cultures, the concept of social justice has often been referred to as the process of ensuring that individuals fulfill their societal roles and receive what was their due from society.
Interesting. That was very hard to follow.
Do you think that is
Yeah, definitely the definition has absolutely changed. It's none of those things now. None of those things.
If I were to quote, was it Hayek? He said social justice is nothing more. Like, he couldn't even define it in his time, because they were talking about it then. It was the redistribution of wealth. That's what it comes down to. They want certain things for certain people. So he's an economist, of course, so he saw things through that lens. But that's what it boils down to. People want money to be put over there as opposed to over here, which is the argument for any central planner, anyone who wants to get into power, says, I want control over the purse strings. So
social justice is basically now, it's just mob justice. That's all it is right now. It's just mob justice, going after people who have not necessarily committed crimes, but people that they hate, and then they attach crimes to them. I just basically boil it down to tyranny.
Okay. It's tyranny.
If you listen to the tales of Joseph Stalin, how he had lists of enemies to go kill, and then he just like, then it's long enough. It's not long enough. I'm just gonna put a number, the number 1,900 or something like that at the bottom. So kill these people that I listed out here, and then I don't know, just go kill 1,900 random people, because it's just not long enough. That's social justice to me.
Wow, that's kind of scary, LiteratureDevil. Holy jeez. I thought it was a bunch of people getting together saying, society should be a little more balanced for the rest of us. LiteratureDevil's like, no, it kills people.
Yeah, they say that. That's not what they want, though.
I think there's a difference between the idea of social justice and a social justice warrior. We all know them, those things.
Yeah,
I fear no man, but those things, they're kind of pathetic.
Just give me a Justice Classic. I don't need any special class. I don't need any, like, Crystal Justice or something. Just give me, Crystal Class. Just give me Justice Classic. I don't need Crystal Pepsi.
Give me the good old judge on the good old gavel, and that's
just give me normal justice. Okay, I don't need Diet Justice. I don't need Crystal Justice. I don't need some fancy, I don't know, some made with like some weird sugar replacement justice. I just give me classic justice. Okay, it's fine with me.
What about vigilante justice? Is that fine?
No, it's not fine.
What if it's come from Batman?
Well, that's Batman. I mean, that's
Batman. I mean, those are heroes. Those are like superheroes.
The argument.
If Batman was dispensing justice, would you be okay with that?
Well, yeah, I mean, he works with the police.
But you're the devil. I thought you were supposed to hate good things.
Yeah.
But I suppose he kills bad people. Oh no, he doesn't kill.
He doesn't kill. Batman doesn't kill. He works with the police.
Except in Batman 89 or Batman v Superman.
Well, if you remember, the police are bad guys now, remember? So obviously I'm in the right now.
Oh, no. But I know the reason why you like Batman. Obviously, it's because he's a fascist.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Batman's totally fascist or something.
It's okay because he's Batman. What's your reasoning behind everything, Batman? I'm Batman. Oh, thank you. Okay, great. Great logic.
How'd you do that? Because I'm Batman.
All the justice Batman needs. The end of his fist. All right. Let's see what Miss Sydney Chaffee has to say.
In a society deserve fair and equitable rights, opportunities, and access to resources. But it's become controversial and nebulous because we've stopped talking about what working for social justice actually looks like.
This, by the way, is the same exact argument they used to defend feminism. Like it's when the weird crazy feminists came out and said that all men should be caged and taking out like library books and stuff, or all men should be killed or something like that. People said, well, when that became the mainstream idea of feminism, people came out and said, well, that's horrible. And then all the defenders of feminism said, oh, no, look at the dictionary definition. It's obviously just the equality of the genders. And if you hate feminism, obviously you hate the equality. You hate women. all that stuff. So it's I think we call it the dictionary defense or something. We just go right to the dictionary definition when it obviously does not fit that definition anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of
You can
curious.
put anything in a dictionary.
Yeah, well, I'm just curious if these people know if life is fair to them and how they plan to fix that. Because I'm quite sure everyone's born in different scenarios by different family members, different groups, different parts of the society, different parts of the planet. How are you going to have one small organization, whether it's a city or community or a country for that matter, make it equal for everyone? It's kind of hard to wrap your brain around that. I don't mind people trying to equalize education on a young level, but for what end? That's what I want to know. What's the
I
goal?
think complete equality is never ever going to happen. What you want to look for is equity and equal opportunity. So, and you're trying to get it as minimal as possible, because ultimately, as long as one person in a free society, if one person's working harder than the other person, they're not going to be equal, because one of them's going to be getting better jobs, one of them's going to be getting more pay, and therefore they're not going to be equal. But the opportunity should be that they both had the same opportunity to get to the place where they're going.
Yeah, equality is what the idea was that the equality was for equal opportunity. It's not equal outcome. What the modern day social justice warriors have wanted for years now is, or what they say they wanted, is equality of outcome, not equality of opportunity necessarily. They want like every percentage. They want percentages. They want quotas. They want that sort of thing. They want the outcome to be equal, not the opportunity.
Which is kind of stupid, which is why you get things like diversity hires, where you have to have exactly 50-50 this, 50-50 that.
That's a very good distinction. We saw that with the awards for, was it BAFTA, for the video game awards? Oh dear, that was absolutely horrific how they want to have not only the characters in a game, also the secondary characters in a game. Not only that, but the same criteria for the people working on the game to have the exact same criteria. It was the most silliest thing I've seen all year.
That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then we got something called the Duvernay test, where it's basically it's kind of like the Bechdel test, where the Bechdel test is like, you need to have two women talk about something else besides a man, and stuff like that. And then the Duvernay test is new, and that's judging how diverse a movie is, which diversity just means, according to the website Duvernay test, it basically means no white people, because some of the movies that got A grades had no diversity in it. It's like this a cast of all black people or all Asians with no diversity in it. It's just so what we got from the actual website of the Duvernay test, which they advertised, by the way, was this. I guess there's no white people. I guess that's what they have. That's what they said. That's what they basically have laid out for us. But the Duvernay test at its core was a test to test movies on how diverse they are. Basically, how woke they are.
Nice thing. I think the way to kind of handle like hiring is kind of how J.J. Abrams does diversity, as opposed to how what's his face, Paul Feig or Rian Johnson does diversity. Or it's just people are cast, here they are. We don't need to make a big deal of it unless we are specifically making.
I want to point out one very big flaw. Originally, J.J. Abrams wanted to cast Star Wars as exclusively Asian, because he didn't believe that, because there was little to no Asian representation in the rest of Star Wars. So, obviously he didn't get away with that, but he still at least attempted it.
Well, I just mean like in terms of like how Rise of Skywalker has little to no wokeness in it.
I don't think that's what because J.J. Abrams wants that. I think that's just because they're trying to, sell a film, and they're trying to backtrack as much as possible to appeal to the big dumb fanboys.
All right, well, this is about education, or to bring social justice into education, like grade school level, I would imagine. So that's a bit strange, because usually this is something you would look at maybe a university level if you were interested in actually pursuing that sort of topic, which is great. That's where it should belong. In the university, you could learn all sorts of useless things and learn about the world, and that's great. You have the freedom. It's your money. It's your time. It's your life. Go for it. But teaching kids, I don't know. That's pushing it, I think. Anyway, let's find out.
Social justice can look like this, or this. It can look like this, or it can look like this, or my favorite, it can look like that. Those are my students, and whenever I'm asked to articulate my work or my priorities as a teacher, I explain that I believe education can be a tool for social justice. But a few months ago, I logged onto Twitter, as I do, and I saw that a fellow teacher had taken issue with that belief. Teachers, he said, should not be social justice warriors, because the purpose of education is to educate. And he ended his argument by saying, I teach my subject. But I reject that simplification, because teachers don't just teach subjects.
Yes, no, they do. No. Okay, they teach a subject to people, and they shouldn't be thrusting their politics into their classroom. I would not expect a conservative to run into the classroom and start spouting their politics, and I wouldn't expect, at least I shouldn't expect, also a leftist to run in, a social justice warrior to start spouting their politics, because you shouldn't be pushing politics on young kids. You shouldn't. You're there to teach maths, you're there to teach English, you're there to teach French, you're there to teach technology. You're not there to teach them politics.
Let's hear that again. I think it was a bit too quiet for some people.
But I reject that simplification, because teachers don't just teach subjects, we teach people. And when our students walk into our classrooms, they bring their identities with them. Everything they experience in our rooms is bound up in historical context, and so if we insist that education happens in a vacuum, we do our students a disservice.
How?
It happens in a vacuum. You're supposed to teach people facts, not opinions and what they should be thinking. That's indoctrination. That's why a history teacher just teaches out of the history book what how things are perceived, what things happen. If they can add in something extra, something extra like, oh, did you know this thing happened? Like something they learned during their own education that's not mentioned in the book. They add supplementary material, but they're not there to tell you, oh, that these guys were evil and all that stuff. And they're there to tell you facts. That's what they're there to do. That's why you send your children to school, so your children can learn facts. And they can figure out who they are and what they believe on their own. Math teacher teaches math, not how Trump is evil or something. The history teacher teaches history, not how the right wing portion of America are just evil and cruel or something. Okay, it's just facts. And you wouldn't want the other way around either. I'm assuming. So that's why you go to school, for the facts.
Well, I wouldn't want someone teaching, kids like, oh, Trump is evil. And I wouldn't want anyone saying that, oh, Trump is amazing, because it's up for the kids to find out for themselves when they grow up, when they're ready for things like politics.
Exactly. It's just about, you go to school for facts, not for your teacher's opinions.
I like the mentality of a teacher saying, I don't teach the subject, I teach people, meaning I'm teaching the person the subject, meaning I want to get to the person's mind. I say, okay, what is your block? What are you not understanding? I don't want to just read a book. Anyone can read a book and recite it. I want to do that. I want to explain math to you in a way you can grasp. I want to explain how I can create a bridge with certain suspension or what have you. I like that idea that they want to get to the person and teach them something, but they're still teaching them a subject. So I don't understand her concept of teaching people. Is she teaching people
I think
about
it's just
people?
Semantics.
It probably is.
I think it's just semantics. Was he meant, oh, I'm here to teach students a subject, and then she says, oh, I'm here to teach students, like that. You're saying the same thing, because ultimately, by teaching them a subject, you are teaching people so it's kind of just semantics, really, the way she's saying it.
It doesn't really matter, because it's not relevant to what's happening all around them. And what's happening all around them? Well, racism, for one.
Racism is happening all around them, and that's a good thing or a bad thing? Tell us why. Why is that relevant? Because we can observe it.
First I would say you have to show evidence that there are racism happening around kids, for a start. Specifically these kids. And why we need to teach them social justice.
And kids of all denominations are going to be poked upon or picked upon and laughed at for any reason. Doesn't matter if they look different or sound different. Pick a reason. A child's going to bully you. A child's going to tease you. It's part of growing up. So how is that going to change? Do you want to discourage people from liking and disliking each other? I don't think so. That's not healthy. You want to have that rough and tumble as well as kind and sociable environment. It can't just be all happy. It can't just be all nice. School is not all pleasant. Okay, learning is not completely fun. It's not always easy either. So I don't like this idea that, oh no, we just have to smooth it out for everyone's nice. Everyone gets along. It's like, no, that's not how life works. I wish it were, but you don't have to teach the idea that racism is bad. It's like, oh yeah, where is it bad? Tell us where, show us. And then we can understand where you're coming from, why this has to be taught to people. Because we quite understand discrimination is wrong. We understand that just in general. How far do you want to go with that topic, though? Be nice to people. Be courteous. How far should you go with that?
In 2016, the University of Chicago released a report that revealed that according to results of the implicit association test, fully 88% of white people harbored subconscious biases against...
Okay, this is really pissing me off. Let me just go back there.
That is a little scary.
How do you know what's in someone's subconscious? Does anyone know?
You do is you get a fucking spaceship and they scan your brain. Aliens.
They did that on Voyager, actually. That's a little scary to me. Let me bring this up: the fact that white people have unconscious bias. So you're trying to indoctrinate people, and so that they have no personality or individuality whatsoever. Like, you can't even have like unconscious bias. How do you get rid of that?
Not to mention, okay, so this quotation marks subconscious bias. What does that? Okay, so I want to see, 1, how you found this out. 2, what you classify as a subconscious bias, and 3, how is this harmful?
Right.
Because I would assume that a subconscious bias is something which you don't even act upon, that it never even comes into the front of your mind. So you, let's say there's a difference. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out what a subconscious bias, racial bias, would have a harmful effect on, because it would never really come to the front.
It's a very telling thing when you're trying to combine the philosophy of Carl Rogers, which is a humanistic approach. So everything's conscious, everything's aware, everyone's talking about the actual thing that's discussed. And then you talk about the subconscious and then the unconscious, which is pretty much Freud, which we haven't thrown away, but we just sort of address it in other ways. And to actually do this sort of test is a very strange and crisscrossing of philosophies in psychology, at least, or techniques in psychology, to somehow ask them indirect questions and through those answers determine that, oh, this person doesn't like this person for some reason. And you try to make a pattern out of those responses. Oh, they might not like the fact that this person's gay or this person's white or black or what have you. That's the best you can do without directly asking them, hey, do you like black people? They're like, yeah, what's the big deal? Like, unless you start asking a battery of questions about your sexuality, your attractions towards certain people, and then you're getting into the nitty gritty. And then you have to correlate that somehow into people in general or general attitudes about others. Like, I'm quite sure we all have different attractions to different people for different reasons. And that could be unconscious, that could be subconscious, that could be totally conscious. So
also, what group of people are we talking about here? Because if it's purely in Chicago, maybe there's something about white people in Chicago that make them more likely to be racist. Who knows?
Chicago.
Is this across America? Is it across like the whole of the Western world?
I think Chicago's the crime capital of the USA. There's a lot of crime in Chicago.
So if this was only taking place in Chicago, maybe there would be a little bit of maybe it wouldn't be a fair test. We need to see how they came to this conclusion. What you're working out here. You can't just go on a test and say, hey, look, here's my answer. You have to show you're working out and for us to believe you.
Yeah, there's lots of things that you can study in, let's say, a city where there's lots of crime, and make all sorts of accusations and conclusions, but you're going to miss the mark most of the time because there's so many factors happening right now in Chicago with guns laws, with, look at the crime rate, the representation by population of people in rich communities, if there are too many left, to the middle class, to the poor. There's so many social economic things to look at. And to start saying people have harbored subconscious, why do you think that might be? Maybe because there's lots of crime in Chicago and they identify with black people as people who are criminals because maybe they commit the most crimes there, like theft. So
and that would be because of the financial disparity between race in places like that.
There's all sorts of reasons. So these opinions don't pop out of nowhere because people are different. It's because we're scared of them or people are scared of others. So there are reasons for this sort of fear or understanding of others, even though we've never met these strangers. Everyone's scared of strangers. It doesn't matter what denomination they are. And if you're in a crime-filled city, it's like, okay, there's a great chance this guy might hurt me or steal from me. And you should always be on your best guard when you're dealing with your own property, with your car, with you chaining up your bike or whatever you're doing. Always be very cautious. That's just normal stuff. So,
and here's what I find so disturbing about the comment of hers, where she's putting forth the fact that all these white people have a subconscious bias, which means they're not consciously being biased. It's something they can't really help that much. It reminds me of that scene in 1984 where Winston is in the chair, or he's being interrogated, and they're asking him, how many fingers am I holding up? And it's like 4. And he's like, 4. There's 4. I think it's 4. And then he said, no, Winston, it's 5. And then Winston finally says, okay, there's 5. And then they still shock him. They still punish him. And they go, why did you say that? I said 5, just like you wanted me to. And they said, yes, Winston, you said 5, but you didn't believe it was 5. You didn't fully believe it, because sometimes the party says it's 4. Sometimes the party says it's 5. And whatever the party says, you must believe it. That's what it reminds me of, the 1984 section. Where telling them what they want to hear is not good enough. Compliance is not good enough. You have to, from your very subconscious all the way up to your consciousness, you have to comply. You have to be completely pure, mentally and physically.
That's one of the extreme examples of torture and manipulation in 1984. One of the books.
That's what a little comment reminded me of. Like, wow, really? You're going to demonize an entire race of people because of what they're doing subconsciously? Okay.
What? And again, we don't even know this is the entirety of the white race, quotation marks. That's such a weird thing to have to say. the white race. Oh,
yeah. Of our sample of what is it? What's the denomination of 88? 11 people. we did 11 people, and
88 of them had some sort of bias that maybe not even real. Maybe it's not even real bias. Like, I would prefer this guy over this guy.
I'm gonna see if I can find something about like this. Just do a bit of quick research.
I've seen some of those tests before. Like they say, what kind of person would you which one of these people on screen would you hire for a job? And they put like a bunch of people up there, and how they determine bias is like, okay, one guy's black, one guy's white, one guy's this and that, and then they read the results. That's how they get something like this. That's how they get this 88% figure.
Well, always the bigger number is always better for any sort of scoring you're doing in stats for either psych or whatever survey you're doing. So it's nice to get this information and see what other people have thought. Other professionals in stats have looked at and say, oh yeah, this is completely stupid. This is completely worthless.
I'm also really curious if she says, okay, here's 88% of white people have harbored subconscious bias against black people. Now, what about black people? What about Hispanics? What about Asians? What kind of biases do they have? Is she going to put those statistics up?
Yeah. Are white people harboring subconscious biases against white people too? Like what? 100%.
Yeah. And what about what kind of subconscious biases do black people have? Do they have any biases? Because social justice is supposed to be equal, as you said. So it's not just the burden of white people to be completely pure, mentally speaking. It means everyone in society. So it's not just white people who have the burden. you have to address that other races live in America, and that they have to be on the same level. If you're going to, they have to be the same level that you're going to hold white people to, if you're going to have an equal society, as you stated, or as she stated.
I've typed in subconscious bias into research in the University of Chicago, and I can't seem to find it. And this is the NORC, so National Opinion Research Center at the University of Chicago. I can't find anything on unconscious bias when searching through it.
It has to be some sort of psychological body, because you can't just assume the subconscious in a survey. It doesn't quite work that way. You have to have someone with a degree in some aspect of psychology to be able to do this sort of, and it's not just, here's a survey. It's like, can you sit down with me for a good hour? And you'd have to know what you're looking for. You'd have to actually be a psychoanalytic or someone who studied Freud, because you would not be talking about the subconscious in this way. In a survey, at least. Anyway.
Of white people harbored subconscious biases against black people, believing them to be less intelligent, lazier, and more dangerous than whites. And that's just one concrete example of the insidious.
It's the only example you're going to give us. It's the only example you're going to give us. How convenient.
For more
Wait. No, that's not a subconscious bias. That is a knowledge. They would. You talk what you're talking about there. You're saying that that's what they actually believe. So that would be surely a conscious thought, not a subconscious. If you believe that, for instance, black people are less intelligent.
Yeah, I mean, the subconscious bias is not. Not the KKK member, okay? That's not what you would be looking at. A subconscious bias would be maybe even a run-of-the-mill white liberal who is all for equality, but still harbors some sort of subconscious bias. That's what you should be looking at. The KKK member, that's not subconscious. That's totally conscious. That's active, overt biases. And I like that she just gave one example. That's it. Here's one example. Just demonize white people. That's it. There's no other Here's a problem in each sort of category of society. No, just the usual go-to for demonization. It's just white people. Don't go ahead and show what kind of biases Hispanics have. Don't show what biases blacks have. What kind of biases Asians have. Don't do that. Just do one example.
Here's a super chat from Joseph Kerwin. Anyone know a ritual to summon Aiden Paladin? This seems like her kind of gem. Everyone knows who Aiden Paladin is. She's a YouTuber who frequently looks at some of the political leanings or some of the nonsense from other YouTubers, kind of like what we do.
The crazy people.
Well, yeah, like Mundane Matt and what have you. So,
but they're more in the political realm. We handle usually entertainment.
Yeah, we just have movies fun. Yeah. Talking about fun, hey Glib, how's it going? You're a man of many avatars, I notice. You change yourself quite regularly.
As long as they are somewhat consistent of the same material or colors, then I think the meme keeps going. So
the Glib with
I'm good. Faces. Yeah. There you go.
Avatars.
The Glib with no avatar. That works.
No, 1,000 avatars.
1,000 avatars. There you go. I just it took me a little while to get here, but now I got my coffee, I got my crumpets, I got all my muffins, so I'm ready to be spoken down to by somebody in capri pants. Look at this woman's outfit, by the way. Can I just point out really quick how poorly dressed this person is and has no clue about how to dress herself to be on stage? What is she wearing?
Flip-flops.
Oh my god! Look at her.
Oh my god, Becky! Look at just look at that jacket. How does that jacket go with the pants? Like seriously, just look at the shoulders. Is it 1982?
Sorry, I heard that style is called the quirky look.
No, it's called 1984.
I've heard it's called looking shit.
It's called absolutely ugly. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out because I was watching the stream while I was making my coffee and I was noting that because it's always suspect to me. I understand you have people that are like they're strange and specific. That's what Donald Glover called a nerd. Like the idea that they're not going to pay attention to one thing because they pay attention to so much over here. So somebody may have like a messy room, but one thing that they work on might be really refined. Or somebody might be extremely specific and very clean and coordinated about everything. But I always find it interesting when somebody's coming in to talk and do a TEDx thing, and it's like, I'm an expert. I know what I'm doing. And it's somebody who clearly doesn't really know what they're doing. Like, why are you here again? Oh, I'm here to talk about how we should teach kids that their identitarian aspects are more important than their personalities, which is the opposite of what they taught us in my generation, the greatest generation, the boomer generation, where we stormed the beaches of Afghanistan. You know what I mean? We're important.
And all those lessons, all those important lessons they taught you in Chud school,
in Chud school,
whatever they want to call it today.
The Kumbaya school, as we called it back then, where everybody's special. Here's your potion award or whatever the fuck they gave us then. Have a bag of milk for lunch. That was our reward for being extra special. Each and every one of us.
When she came on, she started saying, well, why am I here? I had an argument with another teacher on Twitter who believed that I shouldn't be spouting my politics in the classroom.
Exactly.
It all stems from Twitter, doesn't it? It always boils down to Twitter.
I logged on to Twitter today and I went, if this website went away, I think it would be a net positive for the world. Like, I think
if everyone
the world would advance.
If everyone stepped off of Twitter, the world would be a much better place to live.
We'd all
what
go
a story,
back
Mark.
to MSN Live, I guess. We'd all be using Instant Messenger or something like that.
Well, what happened was Tumblr kind of stopped being pornographic. Because here's the real factor. These people aren't political. That's the whole point. That's what I'm saying, is that all social justice warriors that are on Tumblr because they were obsessed with porn and genitals now are on Twitter, where they're trying to take the same thing, but now they have to actually talk to each other. They can't just shoot images at each other. So they say the most retarded things you can think of. And we get to rake in all that salt.
I'm obligated to call you a liberal fascist, so that's just how
that's what goes. People have said that. There was somebody on Twitter that said you wanted to call yourself a fascist, but you didn't what did she say? You didn't want to be like too obvious, so you called yourself facsimile. I was like,
what?
Open up a dictionary, it's not even spelled the same.
That's hilarious.
It just shows the high intellectual quality of internet discourse.
Twitter is not.
You
a
need
place
a real
to
high
spend
IQ to be on Twitter. We all know this. No, sorry. You need a high IQ to understand why people are on Twitter.
You need a low IQ.
You need a high IQ to understand. You need a high IQ from what I've heard to understand Rick and Morty. I don't think you really need too high of a IQ to understand Twitter.
Oh, no. And you also need a high IQ to understand The Last Jedi as well.
Oh, that's just a plain fact. I mean, come on.
You have to be uneducated to think that social justice should belong in schools, which is funny because she's an educator.
Well, teachers these days have a very strong political leaning.
Well, it's kind of funny, all the university types. I wish we could teach this topic back in high school. I wish we could teach this topic back in grade school. It's like, no. Astronomy, keep that for people who actually want to study astronomy. It's not needed for kids, just a general idea. But I'd rather have astronomy be argued than social justice any day of the week. Here's Mr. M. Ooh, mysterious Mr. M. Political correctness is tyranny with a smile. Wasn't that a nice way of putting it? It's like a hug in a cup. It's like, I want a cup of Joe and a hug. But nope, it's tyranny with a smile.
That's basically kind of what it is. It's just like it's just tyranny with balloons and cake and confetti and safe spaces.
I don't know. It's just it's tyranny by
with extra steps.
No, it's tyranny by the most unlovable person with bitterness in their heart in the back of the classroom.
They'll get you a clown for your birthday, but if you step out of line, if you say the wrong thing, the clown will shoot you. That's kind of that's what social justice is.
The one of the parents whispers over, the clown's secret police. Don't do anything wrong.
Pretty much, yeah. Because they want to take over. That's why they're taking over all the entertainment. So, you say the wrong thing, you're no longer a fan. Say the wrong thing, the clown will just shoot you.
Seems vaguely familiar to the Joker, but okay.
Yeah, I thought you were going to Joker out.
Jokers and steaks. I love it.
Here's another from EC Cons. Thank you, sir. How does the teaching of systemic racism and toxic masculinity do for the development of young white boys who haven't done anything yet? This is a very good question. We don't know exactly where she's going with her argument yet, so we're not sure what she wants to advocate for aside from teaching kids. But
Well, I mean,
obviously, get them while they're young.
Yeah, get them while they're young. Yeah.
Well,
Also, there's the fact that she just cited one example, one innocent example as to why social justice is needed, and it just happened to be the one demonizing white people. So I think I know where she's going. I don't know, but I can make some guesses.
Violence against black people, we could look at the opportunity gap in education. So, yeah, social justice belongs in our schools.
Wait. It belongs in our school because there's an education gap? What does that mean? Are you saying certain schools don't have libraries or computers, or
I don't know. They love gaps. They love everywhere. Gaps is where the social justice just piles and piles of gaps everywhere.
The reason
the only gap I care about is the thigh gap.
The reason why there is an education gap between race is because of the financial gap, because that poorer people of color now live.
Poor black people need their money.
It's like, they don't. They'll fail. Lower neighborhood, and it's like, well, in those neighborhoods, it's harder for them to be sustained. It's harder for them to work harder in education, but they can still do it. It's just more harder for them.
I fail to believe this narrative when for like years and years and years, the people that have been in charge have been able to initiate any kind of change that they think is going to happen. Anything that they want to have happen. They've had power. Obama was president for years. They had the Clinton years. They had so much time to do whatever it is that they want to do. What is it that they want to do exactly? They need more money for programs. I don't believe them. I think that this is all just bring everybody down to the same level. And at whatever level that is. Because when I was in school, there was this thing called the No Child Left Behind Act, and that was Bush, and that made it difficult for every student to meet the same standard, and if they didn't, then the standard had to be pulled down. That's the never-ending death spiral that we're in right now. If someone is super awesome, right, and they just figure it out on their own, are they really going to be treated the same as somebody who needs all the help? No. But then why are we giving money to somebody who's never going to be, make it to the higher end level that we want them to? Why are we taking money that could be allocated to the exceptional person? We've gone from exceptionalism and, wow, you actually are impressive, let's support you, to every person that is downtrodden needs to be given the same amount of attention. And I just don't agree with that. I think that that's a downward spiral.
Here's Mr. M. Thank you, sir. Remember, kids, Bubbles the Clown says, respect my pronouns or I will skin you alive. Oh, dear. Is that a quote? Please say it's a quote. That sounds kind of scary.
You gotta listen to those clowns, You gotta listen to those clowns. They don't mess around.
I think that's the realm of comic books mostly. I can't think of any clowns that would say these crazy things, so I don't know what's going on with this clown.
I think I could.
Maybe John Wayne Gacy.
John Wayne Gacy. Oh no. I think I could take on 2 clowns at once, but 3 would be too much. I think they'd have me at that point.
I don't know. I tend to think of like any clowns that I'm familiar with, like Vosh on YouTube or Xander. Like these are the kind of guys.
He's a great clown.
Can't wrap your mind. Okay, that's enough for me.
When the clown gang does a hit, do they put the little red nose on the body so that the police know who did it?
Card, yeah.
This was the clown gang.
Here's Dead
Hide
Slash.
your kids, hide your wife.
I was doing a postgrad teaching certificate in 2002. Social justice was in every course. I just wanted to teach maths. In 2002, holy crap. I know it was an idea since the 40s and 50s, but I didn't know that was part of every course.
It's the idea that we all need.
Specific school, because I do. Actually, it could even be. Don't know if they're in America. But I do know in America that there is no standardized education. So therefore,
that's not true.
One thing that could be taught in one state could be taught in another state.
That's not true. There's a distinction between private education and public education, but public education is standardized. That's the whole point of the No Child Left Behind thing. That's the whole point of the idea of standardized testing in the first place. They wanted a test that would be an exit exam, and what they actually found is that they were doing such a bad job of educating people that the people that they were teaching couldn't pass the SAT. They couldn't pass exit exams. So then they had to lower it. Then they had to make all sorts of changes to it. The school system in America, because of standardization, has become a mess. because you're teaching all these different people from different areas with different backgrounds the exact same thing in the exact same way. That's never going to work. That's top-down thinking. That is the idea of we need one set of standards ruled by the central bureaucracy from Washington, D.C. and the Department of Education, when we didn't have that up until, I want to say the 60s, but I don't think that's accurate.
Surely then that's not a problem with standardization. That's just a problem with like having the wrong, moving the wrong goalposts for different children for different grades.
Well, but then see, if you're going to have a standardization thing and people fail, then you're telling people that they're going to be screwed by the system, essentially.
But then
they have to change the system to keep the numbers up, because then they'll be embarrassing everybody on a national level, and then there's all sorts of incentives. Whereas before it was like, if you want education, you get vetted by an institution that generates its own clout and its own respect. So the reason why Harvard was good wasn't because they had standardized schooling. It was because that was the place that had the best teachers and the most amount of books and all that. Like, that was how it started. The oldest schools in this country are older than the Declaration of Independence. They were existed for the sake of educating kids, and people paid those educators to live their lives learning and teaching. Nowadays, it's a standardized system where teachers are part of a teachers union that's a government union, and in the public sector, they're all just teaching whatever they get told to teach, and they don't get to choose exactly how they want to do it when they want to do it. I had an enormous amount of trouble in school because of this, because for me, it was super easy to be... English was very easy for me. The physical aspects of school were easy for me. What was difficult for me were numbers, because I wasn't taught how to count properly. And then after me, they enacted the... Common Core, which is even harder to understand how the mathematics work for that. So they're intentionally making kids dumber by adhering to a centralized, standardized system when every student is different. And their whole point, hypocritically and ironically, is that every person, they're all equal, they're all capable of doing all this stuff. And it's like, the actual individuals are getting lost in this drive to make the entire system work a certain way. And I think the entire point, let me finish because I'm almost done. The entire point of the debate in America at its inception between Hamilton and Jefferson, between federalism and statism, was the idea of who should be in charge of what. Should we all have one centralized bureaucracy that controls what everybody learns, what everybody does, and what everybody acts like? Well, to a certain degree. But should individual places have the right to rule over themselves? Well, of course, because if they don't, then how are we different from the United Kingdom? How are we different from the people that we're rebelling against? So the whole point is...
Right now, you're not doing so well.
Well, the whole point is that we need to be able to educate people to a certain standard, but who sets the standard? And I like the idea of individual institutions having different levels of respect. Nowadays, if you go and get a Harvard degree, it's just the legacy name brand. But nowadays, it's like, the education, it's not going to be that different, because almost all the books, almost all the information is standardized. And to be fair, you don't even really need to, if you're going to get educated in philosophy, do you really need to get a philosophy degree anymore? You can just go read all the books. No. So the only degrees that are really necessarily important are there to prove that you went through a program, or that you know a certain level of things, so that you can get a higher level of accreditation from an actual medical school, for example. That has a standardization thing that you want. What we don't want is a standard curriculum and syllabus done the exact same way at the exact same time for all students, even if they need an extra day to learn more about something. Because what you get from that is you get a complete lack of detail. We didn't learn almost anything about foreign cultures when I was growing up in school, because they just didn't have time. It was like American history, and then the next one was European history, maybe, and then the next one was U.S. history for some reason, and I was confused by that because we did it twice. And then it would be world history. It's so 4 years in high school, and each year we learn a general basic version, the propaganda version. I'm not getting off.
You've
I'm not getting off
talked
topic. What I'm doing is I'm going back and
I'm
going back and forth though. What I'm saying is that on the macro level, it's a problem because of administration, and on the individual level, when I went through it, it was so impersonal that I didn't learn anything from school. I learned outside of school. That's my ultimate point here, and adding social justice to it, like what we're reading, is adding more strain on kids. Because who gives a fuck about kids, really? Anyway,
implying that you don't discover your own individuality going through school, and that's why you pick a course that suits you when you go to university.
If you can get into university, because some of the classes that they put you on and the curriculum for high school are not designed to get you into college. That was one of the experiences that I had, because there's a credit system in the United States.
So, Glib, I have a question. So, just trying to go back to the beginning so I can understand it. So, what is your first problem with a standardized system? So, from my understanding of a standardized system, where does the problem begin? And then we could tackle that at the beginning.
I think it has to do with the Department of Education, because the idea that you need a state centralized system to tell everybody what the standard of knowledge is, I think is a really bad idea. Because
why?
Because by practice, everybody wants their kid to go to a private school because they're exempt from these rules and they can get an education that's going to be specific to whatever the parents want. On one hand, and on the other hand, private schools are paid better and usually have higher quality teachers because the teachers are allowed more flexibility. Nobody wants to be a public school teacher these days. Why would you? You have to go through the halls that are unkempt, where the air systems have mold in them, where there might be metal detectors, where kids are in gangs, where there's fights in the middle of classes and stuff in the big cities, for example. Baltimore, Detroit, Washington, D.C., New York, Chicago, L.A. It's like the public school system is like a prison system.
But what does that have to do with standard? So
that's the result.
You're talking about funding, but surely that has more to do with funding than the standardization system.
Where is the public going to get its funding from on number one? And number two, they get their funding by attendance rates. So they've created an extreme situation where if kids go truant, then they send them to court because they want as many heads in class as possible. They want people to not be sick. They want people to show up because they get paid more. Because it's all centralized.
You're jumping a little bit. Go to school and not get an education, because where the fuck do you go in life if you don't do that? Yes, you turn up to a public school if you cannot afford to go to a private school, and yes, they teach you fundamental things in a public school because everyone needs to know what fucking math is.
I believe what Glib's trying to say is that he likes the school voucher program started by Ronald Reagan back in the 80s. So
I've been to a public school, a charter school, and a private school in Los Angeles. So I understand in the same high school era. Like when I was in middle school and high school, I went to a bunch of different schools and I experienced what each of those schools were like in that area. So that's anecdotal. But on the macro level, when I look at the statistics, it's not that different. My graduating class, 92% of the class graduated. That was just my year that I spent from the original school that I went to. However, the next year was only a 67% graduation rate. So their education and standardization is something that's not working for them unless the kids individually are pushed through it by ulterior means.
Can you just slow down for a second? I'm trying to understand. So when I was talking about the standardization system, and then you immediately jump to people don't want to go into onto public schools. And then you say the reason why they don't want to go into public schools is because of the standardization. But what I want to get down to the core problem of what is wrong with the standardization system. It's worked extremely well for the UK. It's worked well for other countries. Why has it not worked in America? And that's what I want to understand.
Well, because it doesn't. It just the idea that we need for our giant country and for all the citizens a central standardization system that comes from the top, I think has been a negative effect on the individual student and their experience in schools. I think it's had a negative impact on the way that schools are administered because it's not detailed enough to the actual area. Like what the desires of people in Los Angeles County are for their students and the quantity and the quality of their education and the educators and the whole system is not the same as Massachusetts. It's not the same as Florida. It's not the same as Connecticut. Now, yes, you need a certain standard level of math and all blah, 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 blah. But that could be elementary school. That could be middle school. That doesn't have to go all the way up to each and every public school.
And besides, most elementary school.
most people, they are what they are looking for is a community college because they can't afford to go to the overpriced state schools or the universities. Well, what you're allowed to do is if you get a certain amount of credits in your community school, community college, then you have the right to transfer to a state school. Then you get your state school degree, right? And then you can actually have a degree. So the point that I'm trying to get here is that what the standardization system has done is it's created a finite system to get something. So you have to go through this system. If you don't go through all the steps that they put for you, then you won't get the degree, which is why you have people in chat that are basically saying, in 2002, I had to go through the social studies thing. I just wanted to learn math. Well, to learn if somebody knows something, you test them. So why is it that, hold on a second, why is it that I have to go through a standardized educational system to obtain knowledge if I'm faster or I'm slower? How is the system going to adjust for each individual person's rate at learning and their interest in what they want to learn when they want to learn it?
Well, any kind of...
It's down to you to discover what works best for you, and you can't do that unless they cover a broad portfolio.
But they don't give a shit about you, is my point. They don't care if you drop out or not. What they care about is getting you into the classroom so that they can get funding for their attendance.
Any system and any standards aren't going to change, no matter if it's standardized or if it's set by the actual college itself.
I understand that. And that's the reason why before we had a system of private education. We had all sorts of educational systems that arose in the area to treat public stuff. It was funded by local people that needed to treat their kids, and it was direct. It was like, this is what we want to teach them. We want to teach them math, blah, 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 blah. And there should be a standard set for what people should learn, and there should be a test, let's say, and that should be it. You get a standardized test to show that you have meet the minimum amount for schooling or whatever.
Okay.
That could be done any way you want. Homeschooling, that could be done charter school, that could be done in private school, that could be done in public school. What the problem is the idea that the Department of Education in Washington, D.C. is going to be helpful to me learning chemistry. The idea that their standard system that they set up is actually going to be useful for each individual student, when I think the most common thing amongst teachers and students is the recognition that everybody's an individual, especially in our extremely mixed background, mixed class, mixed race, mixed everything institution that is America. That's what we have. We have a lot of different types of people. You're not gonna reach all of those kids with this standardized system. I've seen it, and I've seen its shortcomings. I've seen them I've seen them illegally hold classes with people that aren't allowed to teach certain subjects because they don't have those stats. And they just hope that nobody finds out. I've seen them teach classes that don't give credits for college education, so kids had to take extra semesters. It's a fucked system, and it wasn't fucked before that. That's my point.
All right, guys, we got to catch up on some super chats.
Yeah, we can get back to it.
And get back to the video. So let me just run down, and some of them involve Glib talking more, so don't worry about it. Glib's going to keep talking. It's okay.
Oh, good.
EC Cons, thank you, sir. Wait, Glib, what do you propose they do for kids who don't perform well? Should they not be assisted? Oh, boy, here we go.
No, there should be an entire, it shouldn't be called special education or whatever, but there should be a recognition of different types of kids' education. If I were running school institutions, I would find out what people's aptitudes were in areas, and then I would try and hold up one side of it that they excel at and give them more curriculum in that. And I would try and bolster what they weren't very good at by finding new ways for their brain to intake data. Okay. I didn't learn math until I watched a YouTube video. Like, I knew math, you know what I mean? But I didn't understand why we were doing it the way that we did, why dividing looked the way that it did, why you added in this direction. And when I realized you could look at it from a different direction, it accelerated the process for me. But I never would have learned that in school. I had to go outside.
The United States, you wouldn't be, I don't know, given the Sparta treatment. You either succeed or you fail.
Yeah, right.
I think I'm starting to understand where you're coming from, Glib.
All right. Here's Dead Slash. This is in regards to his previous super chat. I'm Australian, for the record. He's the gentleman who was talking about teaching the certificate in 2002. So he was forced to teach social justice in every course. Here's a super chat from Joseph Kerwin. Thank you again, sir. Clowns are rough. They'll faint with the balloon. Okay, let me read this again. Clowns are rough. They'll faint with the balloon, squirt the flour, and flap the shoe. In the confusion, no one sees the colorful hanky knife. Wow. Where is that from, sir? Did you just come up with that? Is that a poem you just invented, or is that something from a reference?
The world shall never know.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, someone just likes clowns. I don't know. Maybe that's just this thing. Joe Crazy. This lady
Clown
is
boy.
proof that that maybe some children should be left behind. Aw, that's not nice.
I don't know what it is about social justice warriors, or whenever you talk about social justice, your mind just goes right to clowns. It's amazing. It's an amazing phenomenon.
It's strange, isn't it? Huh?
Here's Dr. Crow. No Child Left Behind. Sorry, No Child Left begins kept me out is special needs classes I could have used before I did it too well in reading. Yeah, the best thing to do is just pick up a book. If you know the language or you're having problems learning the language, there's, was it English as a first language courses? There's libraries. Yeah. There's people who like reading. Just keep reading. That's the best thing I can teach you. It doesn't matter whether it's any course, any school. They have a library there. Whether you read, whether you watch, whether you listen to your headphones, always pick up a book.
I think just to move on from what Glib's, I do think I'm starting to understand what Glib is saying, but I think it is still a lot more complicated than just making it standardized to the state or to the school or whatever it's arguing from. And no matter what you do, there's always going to be complications. There's always going to be problems, and you're never going to have a perfect system. Really.
Well, imagine this. Imagine you don't get federal school funding if you don't do specific tests at specific grade levels. What was it that before 2002 was so bad about just testing people for the exit for their diploma, right? You get your exit and then your SAT scores. Why isn't that enough?
No, Glib, moving on from this.
I know, I'm just saying that's
because we've talked about this long enough, and I'm getting where you're coming from.
All right, I got 4 more to go.
I think there's a big difference between the ideas of the American system and states' rights, individuality, and that kind of thing, and then the idea of the United Kingdom and the hierarchical perspective on things, and being getting through certain gates. It seems.
Our public education system. People. How a public education system is extremely different, and it's much more. It's higher than American public education, which I think is very fair to say, and which gives us different people different perspectives, especially when you're coming from a country where everything, where you have a standardized system, and then you get to America, which is much bigger and obviously has different problems. And your system is going to be different, and the system. We're not all versed on how each individual system works to compare them properly.
Okay. Also, hello everyone.
Hi, voice. How's it going?
How's
your video going?
It's up. It's not public because Disney decided to hit me with the copyrights. Yes. So it's private until some unpaid intern comes and be like, okay.
The age-old story.
I gotta be like, sit here and just wait for it to happen. And aside from that, I've been made redundant at my job. And found out the girl I was seeing was sleeping with people that weren't me. So I've had a brilliant last couple days.
Wow.
Thank you.
Time to bring out the hard stuff. Jeez, I would have brought something stronger than water with me right now, but yeah, that's a hell of a.
Now you have to fuck the people that she was fucking to assert dominance.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Thanks, Glib. That's great. That's a great idea.
Yeah, baboon chimps, they don't argue. They sell arguments by making love, which is going to be really great until you get in a row with your family.
But yes, the video of The Rise of Skywalker Part 1 is up on my channel. It's private, so no one can see it. But hopefully when I eventually, fingers crossed, win the fair use argument, I'll be able to post it. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes long. It's something I no longer want to keep looking at because I've got to the stage where I was like, I could do this slightly better, because that's how it goes when you're like an artist or a painter, or you work on a video for too long and then you just start nitpicking your own work, how it could be better. You just have to put it aside, just like, you know what, I could nitpick this more, I just have to put it away. It's good, it satisfies the quota, get it out. And
you did it okay the way that you did it.
Did it okay the way that I did it, yes. And
all right.
Yeah.
We'll be waiting, sir. We'll be anxiously awaiting when that goes through on YouTube, and we'll be happy to watch it with you.
Yeah, well, keep an eye on the channel. It will be up when, fortune smiles upon me once more.
Okay.
Everyone subscribe to Glib. The
Glib.
more important Glib voice. Why do I keep getting you?
Everyone subscribe to
By
Glib.
the way,
Why?
subscribe to LiteratureDevil.
I keep getting voice and Glib mixed up in their names for some bizarre reason.
They sound exactly the same. I mean, it's,
Oh yeah,
they do.
Voice, Glib, oh. Yeah, everyone subscribe to Voice.
Subscribe to Glib for Voices videos.
There we go.
Yes.
So here's Nathan Higgins. Standardization doesn't encourage innovation. Lack of innovation leads to lessened education. Poor performance leads to less funds. Figure the rest. Well, that's a long chain of logic, but yes, in some cases I can see where you're going with that. It's a little different in the states when it comes to education. We're talking about all the states. They have all sorts of federal as well as state level laws, and that says nothing of the municipal laws that each city or municipality has for whatever community they want to enforce. So there's lots and lots of rules on top.
I just want to point out that a standardization system is not an absolute terrible thing. Again, in the UK, we have a very good education system, which is very standardized across the country.
You also have two very good universities, so
Maybe America should just copy the UK and then do what we did with everything we did in the UK.
If you lot didn't go,
I don't want to go through this again. I don't want to go through this bullshit banter argument. You show me what good the United Kingdom does in 2020, and then I'll agree with you. I think that they're a useless state at this point. What do you even do besides talking a funny accent?
At the moment, we lead in the coronavirus pandemic, showing all what kind of drugs and all that kind of crap.
Congratulations. You're winning at a scamdemic.
A scamdemic.
We don't get earthquakes.
No, I think we should just. I think we should just copy the UK and just make it
There's no
better.
coronavirus.
This week, don't we?
We don't get earthquakes in this country because we don't deserve them. Anyone who builds
Because you don't live on a fault line.
if anyone who builds a city on something called the San Andreas Fault has it fucking come to them. It's not San Andreas' fault, it's your fucking fault for putting it there in the first place. Classic American behavior, trying to palm off the blame onto some unsuspecting Mexican.
Yeah, but you know what's cool is that at least when we take the San Andreas Fault, we keep it. What has the United Kingdom kept, except for a couple borders? I mean, what are you? A tiny island. Hearing the United Kingdom talk to America and Russia and all these real countries as if they actually still have class and something to say is hilarious. The only European country weaker than you is Germany, and it's only because they were Nazis. They chose the wrong side, and now they have to pay penance forever. Europe needs to wake up and smell the coffee and realize that it's not 1864 anymore. And they're all weak countries. So wake up and get industrious again and stop dictating to us what to do. We're America. We said no, F you to all of you guys except for France. Because last night was a Chad. This is Chad Politics Hour starring
the pound
Glib.
is worth more than the dollar, I might add, and we have
I
very
will
good
take that advice from you when you actually have a strong country yourself.
It's very good. It's very good to hear from the Gringotts goblins that their pounds are worth more than the dollars. That's great, guys. Keep it up. I bet your steel industry is doing really well, just like ours,
right? We do
right?
extremely well in science. We do extremely well in information.
Your PM is like a knockoff version of Donald Trump. He even looks like he came out of the plastic mold incorrect.
Oh, Boris Johnson.
Yeah, Boris Johnson.
Well, I think you'd be very hard pressed to find a lot of people talk very positive about Boris.
The only other option they had was what? Jeremy Corbyn and his fat hoe. What was that? The woman that weighs 3 times as him. Love it. Good job, UK.
I really would prefer Boris over Donald Trump.
Anyway,
At least Boris has a very good selection of biscuits. Trump, I bet he doesn't even have hobnobs. What is he doing? He does not have hobnobs in his packed lunch.
I'll give you this. Our flag is shit compared to yours. Yours deserves to actually be flown. Ours is totally off center.
You see what happened was America's like, okay, we need to make our new flag, but we'll use all the exact same colors. Yeah. See what we'll do is we'll take all your colors and
what's the first thing the Americans did after they left England? They landed in a place and called it New England. That's really creative. What do you name your foot?
It was called New Amsterdam too, and then we changed it to New York. So we even had to make it more United Kingdom centered. Anyway, let's just get back to the.
We took all the same colors for our flag, and we just made the flag better. It's like
the flag better.
You just make everything better.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's
always
stop
the
now.
best.
We can stop now. We can stop now.
I just want to say, I went from the UK to Florida, and during my flight to Florida, I passed over 3 different Manchesters. You guys need to get more.
Yeah,
did you pass over Nassau County and the Billion Baths too? Because it's all
those
United Kingdom
Manchesters are
related.
far superior Manchesters. Okay, they're American Manchesters, therefore they're better.
Our Manchesters make yours look like womanchesters. Okay,
You see, the original New York is the original York is so great.
I like what you said before. The original New York.
The original York. See, we have Vikings. Does New York have Vikings? No, it doesn't.
Yeah, they do. I know some
they
states
have
have
cowboys.
Of course, it's not even my opinion, Mr. M. I'm just memeing, and I know Smud's tired of it. So we'll get back to social justice, lady.
All right.
This is all just bants. Trust me. Like, if I was serious about it, it would be a lot worse.
I also point out we have Mauler, so
that's true. You have all the intellectual gaming community members.
No, Mauler's Welsh. We don't count him. We don't talk about that little part of the country.
He lives in the UK.
No, we don't count Wales.
Like my most embarrassing than my son. Not that son. I mean Wales.
Going back to social justice, I think that social justice doesn't necessarily belong in schools. Good behavior and equitable treatment of people belongs in schools.
Absolutely.
Social justice requires neither of those.
And here's a new member from Dr. Crow, and Dr. Crow does do their own form of casting on with Dunn. I think Dr. Crow and Dunn get together, don't they? And talk about books. Is that right?
What's the super chat? The super chat. Sorry, what was it again?
Was you talk to Dr. Crow? I'm trying to remember who you do a cast with as well.
My cast is Neff Champion and X Harper, Dr. Crow. Let me see. What is it? A super chat or where is it?
Oh, he's a new member. I was like, oh, I remember that name. Boom. Yeah, he does it with you. I remember a bunch of other people too. Cool. Very cool, man.
Crow dude.
Dr. Crow. You got it. Yeah, he mentioned your name, so we guess it's true. Okay, good.
What I find. Oh, sorry. Just before we move on.
Let's keep moving. Yeah.
Just before we move on, I want to say that what I find extremely strange is that me and Glib, we disagree on a hell of a lot, but yet we get along really well.
It's just a stage persona. You actually hate each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, confirmed.
Fuck you, Glib.
Okay.
Fuck you, piece of shit. Cowboy wannabe.
America.
EC Khan says, thank you. I've heard that funding would be taken away as punishment for failing to meet the standards, but without the funding, they end up doing worse. Well, that's
the whole problem.
Yeah, which Glib already talked about.
But see, that's that was the 2002 thing I was saying with No Child Left Behind. You're right. It was a little sloppy, but we went over that. Let's get back to the video.
Mr. M, thank you for being a new member. Thank you, sir. And Joseph Kerwin again, thanks again. A teacher I know was given students not prepared for the math level he was teaching and pressured to pass unprepared students to the next level. That's never, ever a good thing. You either pass properly or you don't.
That happens. So just it has nothing to do with us. But in China, it's almost impossible to fail people in college because of that. Anyway.
Moving on.
Okay.
Talked about this long enough.
Social justice. Yay, the topic. Fun.
Social justice should be a part of the mission of every school and every teacher in America if we want liberty and justice for all to be more than a slogan. Because schools are crucial places for children to become active citizens.
And indoctrination.
The skills and the tools that they need
gotta get them young,
to change the world.
She's not wrong. It's just she's going about it in a creepy way.
That's the danger of social justice warriors is that they say things that sound reasonable, but they want to go about it in the most tyrannical way possible.
Well, it starts out reasonable.
Yeah, it's like, don't you want equality? Don't you want equality? Therefore, we need to have these quotas inserted everywhere. Like, wait, hold on. Equality is good, but wait a minute. It doesn't sound right. You're just going to force people to hire people they don't want to hire because of their skin color or background or something. Doesn't sound right to me.
So what are those skills? Okay, here's a secret. Many of the skills that people need to orchestrate the kinds of change that will lead to justice are already built into the work of school.
She said justice, not social justice. So very,
Justice Classic is delicious. Social justice, not so much.
Yeah, you can't screw up your terminology there, lady, or else you're going to confuse the hell out of us. And I know you're not talking about actual justice, because the skills in order to do that is to go to law school. So a little different. You shouldn't be teaching law in grade school. I think that's a bit too high level for kids.
Or at least maybe read some Greek philosophy, at the very least.
That might be too high level too, but some of it might be, like Plato might be easy, but a lot of it is pretty hard.
Yeah, I agree. Play-Doh is easy to play with.
Okay, Play-Doh.
Things like problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, perseverance, none of that should be revolutionary on its own. Now, combine that with the ability to understand history, not as one static and objective narrative on which we all agree, but as a series of intertwined events about which there can be countless interpretations.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, it is true that there are multiple interpretations of historical context, but we're talking about details. We're not talking about, hey, the Vikings, they just, they planted flowers wherever they went. It's like, no, they looted and pillaged. What are you talking about? So
history subjective.
History subjective.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous thing to say, oh yeah, this war didn't happen the way you thought it did. It's like, wait a second. No. Quite a number of people died.
Well, to an extent, war is obviously, history is written by the victors. So our interpretation of history is going to be through some kind of biased lens, because it's obviously King Richard III is painted as a very horrible figure because of the way Henry V and the Tudors after him painted him, because they were rivals. But in reality, Richard III probably wasn't that bad. Oh, as bad as kings can get.
I thought it was Shakespeare that depicted him as hunched.
Well, that was in the play which popularized the idea of Richard III. But the main narrative was crafted by Henry V. Which was
it was Elizabeth it was Elizabeth I, because that was the monarch during the time of Shakespeare, and that was because she was part of the Tudor dynasty, and it was Henry V, VII.
Henry V was
created the initial thing. He beat Richard III.
Henry V, as part of his propaganda, started making shit up, and then that just continued along the line to things like Shakespeare's plays.
Yeah, agreed. Henry VII. Yeah, he probably started a lot of it. Yes.
Welcome to history class. Now let's keep going.
Yeah.
If we deliberately choose to explore history with our students rather than just teach it, we help them understand that history is ongoing and that it's connected to current movements for justice.
History is not ongoing, guys. Just so you know, it's the past. It stops.
There is technically a start to history, so if you're going back through history, there is an end point.
Yes. That's how time works. So,
And I mean, that's the thing. You can research into something. I suppose that, can you research so far into something that you then have, yes, this is exactly what happened from every perspective. And then you can't debate what that guy was thinking for breakfast that morning, how it dictated his later actions.
Obviously, that guy's just a bigot.
Yeah. I'm drunk, whatever.
Themselves as potential players within a living history. So those are the skills I'm talking about.
See themselves as players in a history.
As opposed to dead history, but yeah.
But maybe the reason that my Twitter critic wasn't happy with that idea is because he doesn't agree with my definition of justice. Fair enough.
Yeah, because you put social in front of it. This is insane. This is ridiculous. Okay. She made this whole entire TED talk over a Twitter argument.
Yes.
This is ridiculous. It's not like
this isn't TED, this is TEDx.
Yeah, it's TEDx. This is what I mean. It's like TED Talks with like a disfigured, mentally subnormal brother or something.
TED Talks is like for people who are like doctors and
Yes.
scientists and explorers.
Funky voice.
TEDx,
Yeah.
Jesus, some fucking guy walks in off the street. That's it.
That's basically it. The standards for TEDx is basically you throw it on yourself. That's why it's called TEDx, not an actual TED Talk. TED Talks have more like oversight and everything. They're more strict on who gets to run a TED Talk. TEDx is basically anyone.
Yeah, I mean, talk about how my fucking neighbour still owes me $500, so I'm
exactly
complain on TEDx about him, and now he's such a fucking prick.
So fucking cunt.
Let's keep going, shall we?
He owes me $50.
His name's Jerry.
Our aim is to encourage students to articulate their own opinions, not to coerce them.
Which
into
you-
agreeing with us. So it actually.
But that's
doesn't
exactly what you
matter
do.
if he and I agree.
That's exactly what you're doing when you put it into the classroom.
That's what she was doing. That's what the argument happened in the first place. Because she was giving her opinions and subjecting them forcing her opinions onto her classroom.
You're talking about kids who cannot form their own opinions yet, which
That's
is why
the reason why
can't.
we need social justice in school, because kids can't form their own opinions, so they'll have the right opinion. That's the reason why we need it in schools.
You know, that's not far away from what she's trying to get at.
I'm pretty
But,
sure that's what she's trying to get at. Like,
Which is like kids cannot make up their own opinions, which is why we can't tell them what to think yet. We need to wait for them to become mature enough for them to decide what they want to believe. You know, which is why I think the idea of teaching kids religion. So one thing that's kind of in the UK education system still is the idea of teaching kids, you know, they have to pray in every hall every day. This in primary school. It's not in high school. So this primary school is the school when you're up from about 4 years old to 11 years old. And they make you pray. They set you on the ground, and that is something which they're telling you that God is real rather than you choosing to believe that. And that is something which I don't really agree with. But then it doesn't really harm anyone, because when they get older, they end up growing out of it. They get in high school, they start to stop believing in God altogether. But just as a concept, kids cannot make up their own minds yet, which is why you can't tell them what to think.
Conversations with each other. And that means that as adults, we need to learn how to become effective facilitators of our students' activism. We've got to help them learn how to have really tricky conversations. We have to expose them to different opinions. And we have to help them.
No,
see
but you're not
what
exposing
learning
people to
in
different
school
opinions.
connects
You're exposing
all
people
that
to your own opinion.
So here's an example of that. Every year, my students study the history of apartheid in South Africa as a case study of injustice. Now, for those of you who don't know,
By this
apartheid was
logic,
brutally-
they should have social justice as a class, and then whatever the reverse of social justice is at the anti-social justice class, and then you can be like, we're teaching kids different opinions.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the reverse of social justice would just be
Think-
white supremacists. So,
Yep, that works. Or Nazi.
Yeah, which both options are bad. Let's kind of state this openly. Both options are bad.
I just like the idea. It's like, well, we need to tell people the opposite opinion. All right, Gary, the KKK member, you get in here.
Balance it out
It's
by
like-
teaching them two extremes, and then we just hope they become a well-reasoned and stable person from that.
Or you could just
Actually,
not teach them any extremes and just teach them the reason why they're in a school, to teach a subject.
Well,
Or
the
have
argument.
there be some kind of ethics and values class where you teach them, okay, here's how you behave. Do not treat anybody in terms of cruelly. Do not treat people in a degrading or disrespectful way.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Since clearly the parents of both social justice, both the far-wing crazies didn't teach them. The parents of those far-wing crazies suck and didn't teach them those things.
It's the same with any other professor who wants to bring their lessons down to a lower grade level like high school. Say, hey, you know what? We should really teach programming early on because the future is getting very quick and technology is everywhere. And programming needs to be the language everyone should know, or whatever technological reason argument they want. Like, that's the same case she's doing here, only in her case, she's talking about racism and historical apartheids and all these other things. It's like, okay, yeah, this is history. Why do we need to know these things? Why is this helpful for kids? What's the big deal?
Do you remember that quote from American Psycho, that one where Patrick Bateman states in the restaurant where he's trying to fit into all these other, he's painting himself as the golden-hearted, kind-hearted, open-minded man in the restaurant. And he says something like, well, we have to end our apartheid, for one, and slow down the nuclear arms race, stop terrorism and world hunger. We have to provide food and shelter for the homeless and oppose racial discrimination and promote civil rights, while also promoting equal rights for women. We have to encourage a return to traditional moral values. Most importantly, we have to promote general social concern and less materialism in young people. Remember that little speech? This reminds me.
How thoughtful of you, Patrick.
It's super ritzy restaurant, yeah.
That he has expressed is that a psychopath who has a very loose grasp on reality is saying these things, and
yes, it is done. That's exactly what's happening. It also happens in American Psycho. And
aren't they killing Jews in Sri Lanka? Isn't that what that's about?
Hey, that affects us. Look,
there are a lot more important problems than Sri Lanka to worry about.
By the way, I really like Bryce. I really like that character, Bryce. He's so fantastic. But the thing is, every time I hear the social justice warrior or something like this talk about all this stuff and how they're making themselves out to be like the most kind-hearted, most the heroine or the hero of the world, that's what I think about. I go back to Patrick Bateman sitting there in a restaurant, a unhinged psychopath trying to paint himself as the perfect person, because why? He wants to fit in.
Exactly. I have the exact same conclusion. It's the idea that there is a social norm. If I'm as norm as the norm, then I'll conform and I'll be the right guy and everything will click together. It's like, that's not how reality works.
Yeah, there's an idea of a Patrick Bateman.
But there is no real social justice.
Only an entity.
You really like
something
that film,
illusory.
don't you?
But yeah, look at his character. His character's Patrick Bateman.
I mean, if you look at the reason why Brady Easton Ellis had American Psycho in the first place, is because of these reasons, the same reasons we're facing now.
Exactly.
When he went to New York, he was appalled and disgusted by how people worked over there, how everyone was so fake, how everyone was just painting themselves as amazing while being horrible people underneath. That's why they barely recognize each other in American Psycho. They say that they care, but they don't. That's why he made the book in the first place. That's why it's so pertinent and so relevant to current events.
I know there's so many lines in it where I feel like he probably took real conversations and translated them. Like where McDermott is complaining, he's like, "I've seen that bastard sitting in his office talking on his phone to the CEOs, spinning a fucking menorah."
Yeah, I bet you he did.
You spin a dreidel. Oh my God, Bateman, do you want me to fry you up some fucking potato pancakes, some latkes? No, just cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks. And then he goes, oh, I forgot. Bateman's dating someone from the ACLU. And then Bryce chimes in, and what people forget, the voice of reason, the boy next door. They know that he's like trying to be some guy. They don't even think it's him. They say, it's because you're dating this person. It's because he's trying to be the voice of reason. It's because he's the boy next door. Like, that's his colloquial persona with them as his friends. He wants to keep up this persona. And that's the whole social justice thing. It's like, how can I virtue signal hard enough so that everybody will notice me and then reward me for being so virtuous? And then to me, if you look at it from the religious sense, it's a lot like selling indulgences to erase original sin.
Yeah, kind of is.
If I'm just enough of an ally, then I'll be accepted by the black people.
It's actually kind of true. Actually, kind of true, because if you look in the comic book industry, how that's being run by social justice, more or less. That's why you can have someone like Max Visaggio, who can't sell a comic book to save her life, while she can control the fate of someone like Sean Gordon Murphy, who is one of the top selling comic book artists and writers at the moment. The reason is that you can be the most horrible person in the comic book industry, and they will protect you. But if you step out of line, they will out your skeleton, so to speak. Which is why you get things like instances where Max Visaggio is saying, like, there is a predator in the comic book industry, but it's not my bubble to pop, or whatever cute euphemism she makes. if you step out of line, they will reveal you secrets. But if you stay in line, they will protect you, no matter how horrible you are.
Here's a super chat from Joseph Kerwin. Is The American Psycho better as a book? I would totally say it is great as a book. Yeah. The film is its own thing, but the book has a lot more detail about the characters, especially the relationship between the secretary and Bateman. It's lots of great stuff. Like, it's really good.
They're both really good. I suggest reading the book and watching the movie.
Anyway, back to social justice.
Racist system, and the white-ruled government in South Africa imposed racist laws to oppress people of color. And
they love to cite that.
Laws, you risked jail time, violence, or death. And around the country, around the world, other countries' governments, including ours in the United States, hesitated to sanction South Africa because, well, we benefited from its resources. So in 1976, the South African government passed a new law which required that all students in South Africa learn in the language Afrikaans, which was a white language. And many black South Africans referred to that language as the language of the oppressor. So not surprisingly, students of color were outraged at this law. They already attended segregated schools with overcrowded classrooms, a lack of resources, and a frankly racist curriculum.
Frankly racist.
What's a racist curriculum exactly?
This is a very good question that no one can answer.
Do they teach them, like, I don't know? I just kind of want to know what a racist curriculum is.
Did she want them to learn Xhosa or whatever? Xhosa, however you pronounce that, which doesn't have like all the consonants needed. It's like, I hate to say it, but Afrikaans is a pretty good language to learn.
You know,
I don't understand what the problem with that is.
History in black and white.
Wow. So is she arguing for this standardization or against it?
No, she's not talking about standardization at all. She's talking about putting social justice in.
Well, she's saying that the standards were racist. She's like, okay, so give me a non-standard or non-racist standard. Is that what you want, lady? Like, what? It's good only when you do it. Is that it?
I don't think. I think just she wants to do whatever the hell she wants to do. I don't think there's any particular thing other than just, I want to say whatever the fuck I want to my students. I want to indoctrinate them with my politics.
I want it this way.
I want to indoctrinate my kids, but law won't let me. The school won't let me teach these things.
Look, we need a standard, but it has to be a social justice standard.
Which is no standard.
On the morning of June 16th, 1976, thousands of kids from the township of Soweto walked out of schools, and they marched peacefully through the streets to protest the law. At an intersection, they met up with the police, and when the kids
sounds retarded,
turned back,
to be honest,
the police officers set dogs on them, and then they opened fire. And the Soweto uprising ended in tragedy. Apartheid itself didn't end until almost 20 years later.
And there's the pitch. Emotional argument, motion. They're selling you through emotion, not.
Yeah.
This happened in not America. I guess it didn't happen in America. Why do we need social justice being taught?
I think she's trying to say these people, they stepped out of their classroom and they went and they protested. Our kids should leave our classrooms and start protesting. I think that's what she's trying to say.
And
we can make the same argument,
I guess.
Well, I mean, something really wrong was happening over there. Like, over here in America, you can leave your classroom and you can protest, and as long as you don't cause riots or something, you're perfectly safe. You know, a peaceful protest is a right we have in America, so it's guaranteed. Like, if a cop comes against you while you're peacefully protesting, as long as you're peacefully protesting, you have you're perfectly safe. You should be perfectly safe. No fear from the government coming down on you.
Now, obviously, not every officer sticks to that standard sometimes, which is why we get the outbursts and outcries on the news. And what have you.
Oh yeah, well they get in trouble with those cops who do that. They tend to get in trouble, or they tend to get at the very least pointed out in the newspaper.
Hell, they don't even have to. Like, it could still be legitimate why they do certain actions, but they still get in trouble for it.
So instead of learning a Dutch language, which would then have an entry into European economic investment structure or other kinds of languages available and that kind of thing, they want to just cancel it. And then they're willing to go and die against the police, marching in the streets to prove a point. And then she's going to get excited about that. Like, all these people died. Isn't that awesome? I'm going to tell them about it because that just shows how important it is to stop teaching people more languages. Teach less in schools. Don't force people to learn something that might actually be useful to them. It's like, well, then why teach English at all? Why teach any language in school then? What's the point?
English
it has to be indigenous.
Language.
Has this woman thought about teaching how it's going to be teaching written African languages in schools? Has she actually thought about that?
I don't think she thought about it either.
I don't think so. And I think that probably one of the best things that's happened to African cultures has been teaching different languages in different areas. Like, I know Congolese people that have left the Congo, and because they know French, they can go and integrate very quickly into European civilizations, and they can take that knowledge and do whatever they want with it. If it's about education and teaching people things that are going to be helpful to them is useful. But again, if you I suppose teaching people a white language empowers white people instead of teaching the opposite. Like we need to teach kids Arabic or something. I don't know. Some random language. Right. Let's teach them fucking Portuguese instead. Nobody gets that joke.
Learn it somehow. They need to learn it somehow. They need to be able to converse.
I think this is kind of null because again, it's saying, oh well, her entire point is, oh well, these people protested against oppression, and well, now I want other kids to go and protest against oppression, and that's her entire point.
Here's ECCon.
Despite that, no, I'll let you.
Students in USA protested against the Vietnam War. Well, that's a little different. The wars there's always a group of people against war. So it doesn't matter what country you're part of, they're going to protest against whatever.
Well, I assume that's college and university students rather than lower grade students.
Of course, people actually are concerned about these things because they might be drafted into the war. They don't want to go. So this is a very common response to, even if there's no draft for people. Is it 18 years of age to be drafted into the war? I don't remember.
Yeah, America's 18 years.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't want to go kill people. That's just general attitudes. So
or get killed.
That's true, yeah. So always a touchy subject with war, because that's kind of the big response to any sort of aggression in the world. Why are we going to war? What's this all about? Why does it involve me? Why are we in another part of the world? But
so these students protesting, was it good for their education? Was it good for their health? Because the reason why you're in a school is to learn education. So why does protesting matter?
It's kind of similar to, let's say, if Ontario were to protest against learning French. If you go anywhere in Canada, they pretty much teach French in all the high schools, even in grade schools. And we're like, why are we learning French? Why are we learning Italian in certain schools as well? You don't have to. You can opt out of it in grade 7 and 8, but it's pretty much standard across all schools as you grow up. So it's all because of
learning
our one province.
Yeah, learning a language is not inherently racist.
I think we're talking about an extreme example here during apartheid,
right?
And again, we're not aware of the full context for what's being talked about, so it's difficult to make appropriate, understand the appropriate context.
I mean, what do you want to preserve a culture? It makes perfect sense. Teach both of the languages in schools because that's the languages of the people that are there. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want? Now, at the same time, we have people that are saying that we shouldn't teach other languages as the primary language here. Like English is the language of America, for example. So it makes sense to teach any other language as an optional course, that kind of thing. But
foreign language class.
But default languages that you're going to teach. What are you going to teach in South Africa? I don't know. But what does that have to do with everything else? Is social justice going to solve that by doing what? What part of our anecdote has anything to do with anything?
in first world countries. It does not exist in third world countries.
Well, imagine if she tried to apply this to any other country. Like, oh, we're America, but we should teach what? Navajo language? That'd be so stupid. I don't even know how to begin. It'd be the most counterintuitive thing and change so many things that are already working perfectly fine. You know, call me when we teach Klingon as the default language, then I'll care. Stupid.
I would love to learn Klingon as the default language.
Waklar. What about that Mordor speak in Lord of the Rings? Whatever the orcs speak.
I want to learn Elvish.
Oh yeah,
LitDev, that would just be speaking African, obviously.
Oh yeah, that's right, obviously.
But the activism of those kids in Soweto profoundly changed the way the world viewed what was happening in South Africa. News outlets all around the world published this photo of 13-year-old Hector Peterson, who was one of the first people killed by police in Soweto. And it became nearly impossible to ignore the brutality of the apartheid regime. And in the months and the years that followed the Soweto uprising, more and more countries exerted political and economic pressure on the South African government to end apartheid. And it was largely due to the activism of those kids in Soweto. So every year my kids learn about this. And invariably, they start...
So does she teach history or something? Like, I don't get it. Is she just giving references that she thought were racist and that's bad?
I mean, I hope she would be teaching history if she's talking about...
Going by the fact that she's an SJW, or so she wants to teach social justice, she could be teaching math for all I know.
Yeah.
Just in the little math class, like, well, time to teach apartheid.
Yeah, that's it. By the way, I know we learned geometry last month, but today it's apartheid.
Well, now, so we learned about trigonometry. Well, now let's talk about feminism.
What inspires me is teaching African refugees how to program JavaScript. What inspires me is finding out how to get maglev trains to the moon.
Oh, God.
It's like, has anybody seen the 2070 Paradigm Shift TEDx talk by Sam Hyde? It's like completely just nonsense talk, and people, it's all about seeing how long people will believe it's a real thing until they recognize it as a joke. And he has some fire lines in it, and that's what I think about every time I see a TEDx talk. Is it, you know, and because it's just like, it's random anecdotes, and it's something that emotionally caused somebody to do something, and because they've seen on television and in movies that once somebody's inspired, they're going to give a speech, they're going to make a change, they're going to get standing ovations and stuff. That's what invokes people thinking that this is a good idea. And so everybody should watch that Sam Hyde video, because it's amazing. You know, SodaStream will do for soda what 3D printing did for assault rifles.
Make them shit.
The slight triggering in your brain of, oh, so these people are agreeing with this person's thought. This person's thought might be right without further examination. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about the presentation and the enthusiasm behind the presenter to say colorful words in a very pleasant way. Oh, it's so enlightening. Oh, it's beautiful.
State-enforced homosexuality. I don't have a problem with that. It's equal. Facebook has your birth certificate. Mac iPads built into every school desk of every child. You could say anything at a TEDx talk. You could be like, we're gonna reinvigorate the childlike wonderment inside children. You know what I mean? You could just say any bullshit, and then the conclusion of how you do that, that's where the insanity comes in. You know what I mean?
I don't know if it's my brain, but I keep reading Beacon Street as Bacon Street.
TEDxBeaconStreet.
Maybe I'm just hungry.
It's the movie Bob TEDx.
That's something we would love to have as a TEDx talk done by Movie Bob.
on how important Mario is to society.
Was right around the bend to being fascist again.
Dunn, you cut out.
Cutting out, yeah.
Sorry.
So we get half your conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway,
bollocks.
Let's continue with this Jungus.
To draw connections between those kids in Soweto and themselves. and they start to ask themselves what kind of political power and agency they have. They ask
Instead of
themselves
thinking about
whether
their
there would ever
future
be a reason
and
they
what
would
they want to
risk
do in
their
life.
lives so that a future generation could live in a more just world. Profoundly for me, every single year they ask themselves whether adults will ever listen to their voices.
But it's not their voices. You are just saying things. You're pushing your social justice on them, and then they believe that because they don't think. I remember one of the things which I used to praise at the time, but now I kind of think, what the fuck? Was because what I think was happening was teachers talk about Trump, or at least their kids' parents talk about Trump. And when I was walking past the primary school in my town, they all I heard was "fuck Donald Trump, fuck Donald Trump." All these little. This was back during the election.
Well, that means they really like him, though, right?
They were just screaming "fuck Donald Trump," and so that wasn't what the kids were thinking. That's just what adults have told them to think. So, and why should we listen to kids when they A, can't think for themselves, and B, are not mature? So that we need to wait for them to grow up, and then when they grow up, then they can vote. Then they can start having this voice, and then making change in the world. Because, was it a 9-year-old, 11-year-old, a 14-year-old? We shouldn't be listening to these age groups because they don't have that maturity, because they don't have that wisdom.
If we wait till they grow up, they're a lot harder to control and indoctrinate. Okay, we can't have that. Children are very vulnerable. That's why they like them so much. That's why all these the SJWs say, listen to the kids, because they're a lot easier to control and dominate and indoctrinate. When they grow up, I mean, they're kind of useless to them. They could think for themselves. Can't have that.
Yeah, they can also use the defense of think of the children.
A few years ago, my principal got an anonymous email from one of our students. It informed him that the following day, the students planned to walk out of school. This was in the wake of Michael Brown's death in Ferguson, Missouri, and the students were planning to join a walkout and march in support of the Black Lives Matter movement.
But that is a terrible thing to do, because they're supposed to be in a classroom learning for education. A whole point of a school is for educating.
No, it's not. It's for teaching kids you have to go out and protest and then get shot.
I guess
Good can they possibly do?
Protesters.
Okay, so they go out, they protest.
It's illegal to do that, right? Because that's why you have a registration. You need to be able to be sure you've kept track of the student. Yes, they went to class 1, then 2, then 3. If you let them all out to go protest and they don't come back, that's on the school, because how do they know what happened to that student?
What age groups are we talking about here specifically? Because a lot of age groups
it doesn't matter the age group. If they're in like year 11, like whatever you are, like 16, 17, or you're 12 or 13 years old, the whole point of a registration is they clock your name when they walk in. It's like, okay, they attended today, and then they can say, yeah, they were in all the classes like they should be, so they attended. We didn't lose track of them at any point, and then we gave them back to the parent at the end of the day. If you send
them, they didn't die.
Yeah, if you send them all out to go protest, like, yeah, you can go protest, and then even if one kid, if little Timmy doesn't turn up for his after lunch class, and then the parents go, Timmy never came home from school today, and the school goes, oh yeah, he never clocked in after lunch. He missed lesson 3, 4, 5, and 6. Shit, we lost the student. That makes us look fucking awful. And then they get sued, and then they lose money, and then no one goes to their school, and then they don't get any more money, and then the government defunds them, and then the teachers lose their jobs, and then the infrastructure collapses because no one's got jobs.
So another issue is, what really can these kids do to affect stuff in Africa?
No, I think they're using Africa as a point to say, well, kids can make a difference.
What really needs... The only thing that really needs to be changed is the fact that do not treat people in an equitable way. Kids are bastards who will...
Dunn's rage was so intense of what kids do that he cut out.
Yeah, kids are just bastards who will pick on anybody and bully anybody. They just need to sense a little bit of blood in the water.
I'm going to do my Dunn translator. So yeah, you see, Dunn,
Yeah.
Dunn is saying that kids will pick on anyone for any reasons, and they're dicks.
Yeah, they are. They are complete and utter little pieces of trash.
We love children, though. We do.
We do love children. We just love good children, not the dicks.
So at this point, the staff at the school had a decision to make. Would we use our authority and our power to try to control the students and prevent them from leaving? Or would we support them as they put into practice the principles of social justice that we had taught them about since
So wait a second. The principle of social justice is to be truant and go protest? That's what she's teaching these guys?
Hold that back. I didn't hear that. That's my thing cut out for whatever reason.
I was saying that
Like-
they're teaching people to be truant and go protest because they feel like it, which is very strange. The only time that ever happened at my school is when there was a vote for Quebec wanting to leave Confederation. That was like late 80s or something. And they wanted to bus people down to Quebec and protest. And it was like, okay, if you want to go down, we could have an early Quebec trip. Usually get that in grade 8, but you can do it in grade 6 or 7 if you wanted to. That was a big deal. In
These
Canada.
kids are going to miss school or skip out on school. Like, yeah, I'm totally going to go protest or whatever.
I keep saying it, but it don't. Do you know what the purpose of a school is?
It's to protest. You have to protest how racist the country is. That's what the point of the school is. That's why we need social justice.
But even if we lived in the most racist, horrible country ever, and we had to do something right now, the focus of those kids should not be the problems of the real world. Why the fuck do these kids even know about the problems of the real world? These should not be problems which they are exposed to yet. They are too young. Their tiny little kid minds are too young to understand the complexities of what the hell's happening. You see these kids on these global warming marches. They do not understand the shit about global warming. They've just been told about it. It's like, oh, it's bad. Oh, go protest, little kiddies.
So you're against that in schools?
They just leave the schools because they want to. They want to play hooky. It's fun. They want to do it. They don't care the reason. They just want to get out of class.
Fuck the system, bro. I'm not doing my homework. Punk music.
Joseph Kerwin, did the kids make a difference or just get shot? Oh dear, I don't know if they got shot.
Well, no, she said they got shot.
Yeah, well.
They were actively being shot at, so apparently they were.
So protesting with the possibility of being injured or killed is a good thing, apparently. All right.
9th grade year. So the next morning, the kids left school en masse and they gathered on the lawn. And one of the seniors jumped up on a picnic table and went over safety expectations. And the younger kids took it very seriously. And
I doubt that. I highly doubt that.
Told them, okay, be safe, and we watched as they marched off. The kids chose to stay, spent that afternoon in class. They debated the merits of protest.
Wait a second. Is she talking about her university kids or her high school kids or her grade school kids?
That's what I said earlier. We don't know what their age group is.
What I could tell, walkouts are supposed to be brave and a sacrifice by the students because something has gone so terribly wrong that they feel morally obligated to walk out. And this means not, this usually doesn't mean, the teacher is going around and saying, oh, you can go out and skip school so you can go protest or whatever. No, it's usually you walk out, but then you are expelled or you are given detention or suspended or something. There are consequences to walking out. You can do it. It's something you can do as a student, but there are usually consequences, which makes it such a extreme act.
What other student would be scared of another student standing on a table outside, unless they were little?
It's because the child was saying, "Oh, now we need to all be safe," like doing health and safety expectations. They weren't yelling, shit from the rooftop.
Yeah, but if you're standing on a chair or a table, it's like, oh no, he might fall over. That's not safe. You're like, who are you? Are you 6? Like, what's your problem? So there's got to be some really stringent ethical mindset for the young mind to say, oh, you shouldn't be standing on tables, or you are actually 6 years old and you're kind of dopey. You're not very strong enough to be jumping around outside.
I think, it could be her college students. I mean, modern day college students seem to be like mentally 6-year-old at this moment.
Who would take her class?
I would agree.
Okay.
Most
I think some
college
people took her
students
class as a
are
joke. I don't know. She might be just a typical professor over there.
At least from what I've seen, at least Utah students actually take their education seriously and don't care that much about other things other than getting good grades.
Yeah.
Because they want a good job.
Standard, to actually just care about your grades, because you want your kids to get a good job, so they get education so they get a good job. But if these people actually wanted people to get a good education, they wouldn't be forcing them to go into things like gender studies, because that's not going to get them a good fucking job, is it?
So here's Mad Courier 6. We had a walkout once in my high school in response to Parkland. Half of those who left in my class headed to the student parking lot and left school 4 hours early. Okay, so they just walked off into the parking lot and then left home.
Never to be seen again.
Well, this is what kids do. They just play hooky. I can go outside and protest XYZ cause. Let's do it. Why not?
I remember there was a walkout, or at least there was a planned walkout in my college last year. And do you know what the funny part is? So it's like, we're going to walk out of class and we are going to protest outside our college. And it was supposed to be like lunch, it was supposed to continue through lunchtime. And I was walking out at lunch and there was like 10 people there. And this is a very big college. It's York College I used to go to. So it's big. But yeah, there was such a small group of people actually doing it, and the funny part is that the college was actually putting this out there. They were supporting this. So yes, you walk outside of your classroom, because every morning we have this little presentation talking about what's happening in the day, all these other things, and they actively put it on a presentation for you to see, just so you know that there's a protest you can go to. Yeah, they're telling you to get out of your class and to go protest. I think it was for climate change.
The only time I recall protests were in university or post-secondary education, but they were usually for the student body, like the TA association, because they weren't getting paid enough, or the teachers association wasn't getting paid enough, or this or that. And this would happen, I'd say, at least once a year for negotiations. This is at York University in Toronto, which is a pretty liberal, art-minded school. So it was strange to see that, because then you would have like no class for a week or 2 weeks, and then the longest was 2 months. So you would get these really pissed off students who are like, listen, I paid for education. I'm not getting it. This is the teacher association arguing for more money. We have hundreds of millions of bucks coming in from the government. Why can't we figure this out? What's the problem? And this is when tuition's going up and all these other fees are being tacked on to student life, because the government hands out money. The universities all pay premiums or charge premiums. So this is a big problem that's been happening in Ontario. I don't know what it's like nowadays. It's probably even worse. College was pretty cheap for me back in the day, and now it's probably twice, if not 3 times as much, just to get a basic general programming degree or whatever. So these are problems that are affecting kids as well, not because of the social implications, but because of the financial issues of not getting what you paid for, because a bunch of people decided to argue for more money or what have you, which is what social justice tends to being, redistribution of wealth. So
just going back to my actual experience of protesting. So these kids that actually did go, I'll say kids, they're 18. So these 18-year-olds that were actually leaving these classes, what difference were they even making by protesting outside the college? What was college going to do about climate change? It was not going to be seen in the news. It was not going to be noticed. There was no point to it.
That's the argument with any protest, though. Every single protest is like, what are you actually stopping? Like, what are you preventing? What are you changing? And you really have to know what you're doing in order to, like, sit down protest. They get attention. You're not making a huge mess. You're not blocking traffic unless it's like a Parliament building or something, and that's where you should be protesting, because that's the people who are going to notice you. So you say, I want this bill changed. Here are a list of 10 million subscribers or whatever on this list of people and their demands, and this is an amendment to a bill we want. There are certain ways to protest properly. as we've seen this year, there are very wrong ways to protest. So these are questionable things whenever there's a rebellious nature in a society for a law or an injustice or this and that. So using words like social justice is always a very dangerous term. And if it applies with a broad brush, it's a loaded word. It's very nebulous. It's hard to grasp what exactly the issue is. If all you're saying is you can protest, well, what's next? Climate change? Okay, we're protesting for climate change outside. Great. What are we going to accomplish? Nothing. We're going to do absolutely nothing. Why don't you protest higher taxes? Why don't you protest things that actually affect your life, as opposed to some nebulous idea like climate change or the murder of an individual states away or what have you? What are you impacting?
The thing is, the government and institutions in general do not care what a bunch of college students think.
Yeah,
they're not doing anything towards the economy. It's their own fucking education they're ruining.
They ultimately have no reason to cater to them because it doesn't benefit. It neither benefits them to do so, and it will actively hurt them if they do. They don't care.
Well, I suppose you could make a vote argue, especially if you talk about kids who are about 18 years old. That's roughly about the voting age.
Apparently, this, I just found on the chat, the teacher teaches grade 9 class. So right out of grade school.
So what's grade 9?
Grade 9 is high school.
It's like 15, 14, 16.
Okay. So somewhat mature, but not mature enough to think for themselves still. Somewhat think for themselves, at least.
About the history of the Black Lives Matter movement, and they went on with classes as scheduled. And those who chose to leave participated in a citywide student walkout and raised their collective voice for justice. But no matter where they chose to spend the afternoon, our kids learned valuable lessons that day.
Really?
They learned that the
one group did, the other didn't.
Safety. And they learned that they didn't need us to tell them how or when or even why to protest. They learned that they were members of a community of young people with a shared vision of a more equitable society.
Okay, your idea of protesting is being truant, laying down on the ground and holding a piece of paper. That's what they learned? They learned how to take a nap on public property?
Skip class.
Like, what did that accomplish in their minds? Well, I got to take a nap. It was nice outside, and I believe in X. It's like, great, okay. I believe in X, too. I didn't go around laying around and rolling around in the dirt because someone died, and I didn't like that. What did you impact? What is your actions doing to others? How are you influencing others, aside from pissing people off on the street? Here's Alex Halo. Thank you, sir. They are too busy being tricked into raising taxes. I'm trying to think of that, how the increase in protests cause an increase in taxes. Is there a correlation? I don't know.
I think the idea that he's saying is that people protest because they want more funding, then the funding means more taxes. And so then ipso facto.
Redistribution would imply we need more money for the thing we're removing it from. So it could be more taxes, yeah.
And they learned that they had power within that society. They learned that events like the Soweto uprising are not ancient history, and they don't have to end in tragedy. And that's what education as a tool.
No, but it does end in tragedy for the student.
No. You should not put your students in things that will endanger their lives. Are you nuts?
No, I think you should constantly do that. It's thin the herd.
Yeah.
You want to get run over by a car?
If we can convince these kids to lay down their lives for their own good, we will have done a moral right by society and made it a little bit more equitable.
No, you're just going to get a bunch of dumb and impressionable kids killed.
That's why she's a grade 9 educator. Okay, she secretly hates children and wants to see them die by cop so that she can have her communist utopia or whatever. I don't know what kind of politics it is. It could be anything, to be honest.
Oh my gosh.
And here's the thing, our kids are ready for this kind of
Why
work.
is she?
No, they're not.
2015 incoming college freshmen were surveyed, and 8.5% of them said that there was a very good chance they would participate in a protest sometime during their college career.
Okay.
That's a very small amount. That is
College career.
In regards to what? What are they? I'm going to join a protest perhaps the next near future. I was like, about what?
And another thing, saying and doing are two very different things. I might say that I want to do a certain thing, but then when it comes down to like, I can't really be bothered. So even then, I think that would be a lower percentage, the ones that actually would do anything. Because there is such a thing as being lazy. I should know.
No, I should know.
And that might not seem very impressive, but consider the fact that it's the largest number of students to say that since 1967.
You're trying to tell me there was a body of statisticians from 1967 conducting exactly the same test, and then 50 years later, they did exactly the same test in the same group of people or number of people in a certain region, and there was a statistical difference of more than 5%. Are you seriously saying that? From the result from 8.5 to 3.5 to 8.5 or whatever it was. That's the only way this stat would have any value. And we're still talking about less than 2 decimal points or 2 digits. That is not relevant. That is not a big... It doesn't mean it. And all that means is that, yeah, I might protest for something. Doesn't matter what for or why, just something. You could be protesting for lower prices at the cafeteria. Or
I think we should protest for neat rights. Everybody should have a guaranteed income so that they can play video games.
Yeah.
My name's Andrew Yang.
Teach these people that participation trophies are an insult and not something that they are that what they write.
The idea that you get whatever you want if you shout loud enough instead of actually get a job to make a change in your community.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do good by going out, getting a job, or you could, do nothing.
This is what they think that they are telling their people to do what they claim that we do, screaming out enough to get our way. They are doing exactly that.
Can you imagine 2 counter protests together because of all these social justice influenced minds wanting X and then wanting not X at the same time just because they were taught to express themselves? As if that's going to accomplish
if they actually understand. If they really understood how secretly racist The Last Jedi was.
Yes, there's racism in everything, I know.
Yeah, like how the black guy is just the stereotype comedic sidekick and the Asian lady's a terrible driver.
Asian lady's the janitor.
Yeah, they're both the janitors.
They're both janitors, yeah.
The
white character's in charge and willing to not tell the Spanish guy anything because she doesn't trust him for reasons we can only assume are down to his race.
Obviously, it's because of his race. I mean, you can be over that.
Dealer. You can definitely already assume that.
Well, he has no plot relevance, so he has to have some other symbolic reference, so I guess we can go back to color of skin. That could work, yeah.
And 75% of those kids said that helping other people who are having difficulty was a very important or essential goal for them.
Wow, people want to help other people. Wow, like every other person on the planet. That's fantastic.
It's almost as if they are just balanced and well-meaning humans. Just normal people.
Everything in business is about helping others. Everything, every single thing, okay? You want to sell something?
That's kind of how we evolved. How we evolved as a species. In fact, we need to help each other. Despite the whole everything, despite the internet and everything, we are a social species.
Every single service and product we provide is to help the other party. In doing so, we help ourselves. That's how this works.
That's why capitalism is awesome.
That's why it is awesome, because you are helping people in the process. And the more transactions you take part in, the richer you become, not only financially, but as a person. When you admire someone working hard or late into the night, you're like, wow, you're really burning the midnight oil. You're doing a good job. It's like, yeah, I got to keep earning my keep, 12 hours a day, whatever it is. It's like, wow, that's amazing. You're a dedicated person. You care about your job.
Again, the highest number of people to say that since the late 1960s. And research shows us that working for justice doesn't just follow from building all those skills I talked about earlier. It actually goes the other way too. So working for justice, engaging in activism, helps students build skills like...
Okay, this is horrible.
She said justice. She keeps saying justice and is mixing up justice and social justice. So working for justice, you want to work for justice, right? And yeah, I want to work for justice, not social justice. Yeah.
This is the Marxist dialectic in full view. You go forward and backwards, exactly the same result. It's like, yep, this is what people do to win arguments. They start with a conclusion and work their way backwards. So you can learn skills this way. Also, you can develop skills by working for this. It's like,
What skills does it develop? I'm interested to see what she claims.
Walking out, standing around, laying down on the ground.
No. Leadership. No. Political participation. Maybe. Civic engagement. No. Commit to the communities. No.
If it is not going to benefit...
Okay, if you want these things in your kids, there are so many other ways you can do leadership. There are team-building exercises you can do for leadership. If for civic engagement, have them go clean a fucking pond.
If it is not going... If ultimately what I am going to be doing has no meaning, I am not going to do it. Most protests are meaningless. They don't care. The only way they will care is if a sizable amount of the portion cuts into their profits. Just having a bunch of kids stand out holding signs doesn't do anything. They will still get what they want.
Here's Taker 610. Thanks, sir. Here's $2 for climate change. Did you fix it yet? No, I'm sorry. I have climate change on the back burner, man. I just, haven't gotten around to it.
You're too busy.
Yeah.
Joseph Curlin.
You're too busy killing reapers.
Yeah, I know. How else will kids learn to chant? I don't know. Maybe they could join a boy band or something. I don't know. Something like that. Actually, that might be good. They might actually get some musical talent. They learn some skills and contribute to the community and make good music and
leadership and teamwork.
There's an idea. Everyone,
I was in a band.
Join a band and go into public. See if you don't get kicked out of whatever area you're in for making noise. Try to break those rules.
For me, I was in a band.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's one thing they actually do teach them is how to chant. Oh, was it? No Trump. No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA. Yeah, they come up with some nice, interesting rhymes.
Which are completely meaningless.
Oh, yeah, completely meaningless.
I'm honestly down with pretty much all of those things being removed. It's just that these people are doing it the most asinine way possible.
Leadership and critical thinking. And it correlates positively with their political participation and their civic engagement and their commitment to their community later in life. So in other words, students are telling us that social justice matters to them. And researchers are telling us that it helps students learn. So now
if it's really important to 14-year-olds, by all means, they can go watch fucking, what's it called, Young Turks. Or Ring of Fire, or Anita Sarkeesian. By all means, they can go do that. But you don't need to fucking force it down their throats in the classroom. You're saying, because some students care about social justice, we should add it to our curriculum.
You don't even know that, though.
Not all students want social justice.
You don't even know that those students want social justice. They said, are you going to participate in a protest, maybe? Maybe, I guess, maybe. Do you like to help people? Well, yeah, I guess. Well, then you like social justice. That's the trick they like to pull on you. It's like, do you believe in? Are you racist? Well, no. Well, then you support social justice. Like, no, you don't. No, you don't.
You can get out of class for a day if you go protest. Oh, that sounds fun. Let's go throw shit at cops.
Yeah, more or less. And it's like also it's kind of like if you ask a communist, well, do you like stuff? And it was like, well, yeah, I like stuff. Well, then you're a capitalist. It's not the same sort of argument. Like you're not actually handing them over the principles and the ideology and then what it means to be a capitalist. You're like, hey, do you like stuff? Yeah. I mean, I guess everyone likes stuff. Well, then you're a capitalist. I don't think so. The same thing here. Like, would you protest? I guess. Do you like helping people? Yeah. Well, then you're a social justice warrior. You believe in social. So that's where she went. It's very smooth. Okay, but she went. That's what she just did. Like we asked our students, would you like to protest? And some of them said yes. And we also asked our students, would you help someone in need? Is that important to you? Yeah, it's important to me. And therefore, our students want social justice. No, she didn't ask, do you want social justice? She goes, do you like helping people? Well, then our students want social justice are in our classrooms.
Social justice,
and that has been my TEDx
stuff is nihilistic. Most social justice entertainment of late, like Terminator Dark Fate, Game of Thrones is not social justice entertainment. It's just utterly asinine. Last Jedi is social justice entertainment. All of those are nihilistic.
Here's Sensei Mike. Hey, Sensei Mike. Hello, Dunn, back from vacay, TTYS. Smud, it cost me about $150K over 13 years to get my doctorate in the USA. Ridiculous. Wow, that's a dedication, sir. I thought it was only an 8 to 10 year program to get a doctorate, but 13, wow.
Dang.
Well, maybe
you
just
back from your vacation. Sensei Mike, I'm looking forward to helping you.
Maybe it just depends on how good you are, who knows. Like, if you fail something, I guess it would take longer.
It depends. You could change majors, that's true.
You just call the guy indirectly shit.
Yes.
Well, no, he's taking he's taking the scenic route in his post-secondary education. He's taking his time. It's fine. You can minor and major in many things. And someone just reset the play button, so now we're back at 0. I have to move it around. I don't know where we are anymore.
For me, it says I'm at 11:23.
Yeah, I know. I moved it to 11:23, so I don't know exactly where we were.
All right, who pressed the button?
I was at 0, so...
Let's just go from 11. How's that?
Fears make total sense.
11:15, actually.
Despite those fears, we've got to prove to our students that we will listen to their voices and that they do have the power to effect change. It's our responsibility to equip our students with the tools and the skills that they need to insist on a more equitable world.
Why can't you just teach your kids to go contact their counselors or their statesmen, their congressman, their governor, or the federal government? Why can't you just teach them, hey, this is how you talk to people, this is how you get things done in the government? And if
once you write letters, once you go to your representatives,
yes,
your duly elected representatives for a change.
That would be the best thing if you want to affect politics as an individual. If you want to be as a group, sure, get some signatures going, do the same thing, call them up. Hey, we have 200 people who think this way. Oh, we don't want to deal with you. You're not part of any political organization. Form a political organization. It's not hard. Say, hey, we believe in freedom for ducks. I don't know. And we want to keep all the ducks as free as possible because
we demand whales.
Whatever your political cause is, right? So,
I also agree in freedom for ducks.
Yes, ducks are very important to Canadian.
Ducks? How dare you not agree with us? You just hate ducks? Are you just a bigot?
Yeah,
well, they're very tasty, so we have to protect them. So, especially in Canada, so we have to.
I can't remember. Wasn't social justice implemented in France?
I honestly prefer lamb to ducks. Lamb actually tastes good.
Okay.
Wasn't social justice? Wasn't there like a social justice implemented in France? During a certain time in French history. I can't remember exactly. Was it France?
Yeah, it was called the French Revolution. A whole bunch of people lost their heads over.
Yeah, it was called the Reign of Terror, right?
Like the French Revolution. It's like so originally it started off as like a really good and righteous thing, and then it slowly kind of de-evolved. It's like, yeah, let's cut off that guy's head. Then we'll cut off that guy's head. Then we'll cut off that guy's head. And we'll cut off that guy's head. And it just started getting more and more extreme. And then
almost seems disturbingly familiar, doesn't it?
Whenever people like tried to stop, it's like, hey, look, I think we're trying to chop too many heads off of their head.
The French Revolution, where they invented being French, and the result was a lot of dead Frenchmen.
Well, no, they didn't invent being French. It was just that they said, "Hey, look, we don't like the people in power. Let's vive la revolution."
Yeah, France going ahead and proving that not everyone can be as awesome as America. Okay, so with America you got a republic. With France you got a tyrannical dictatorship with lots and lots of beheaded people.
Yeah, there are a couple of major problems
because there was still a council. It was just a very strange system where it's like, okay, now we're gonna cut off his head, now his head, now his head, and just all over the place. It wasn't a dictatorship. It was just.
Committee of Public Safety was one of the worst ideas of the French Revolution.
All right, here's EC Cons. As a student, I want diversity programs to stop telling me I'm evil because of my race and gender. Will my voice be heard? There's a great question. See, if you're going to ask people to voice their issues and feelings about whatever condition they're in, you should work on exactly the same causes. What if you do like having segregation? What if you do like these issues? What if you are outside the norm? Will your voice be heard? Is that acceptable? According to her.
Well, yeah, because you're a social justice warrior then. Because social justice warriors, SJWs, they love segregation. They love the white man's burden.
I love the the clip you were showing us on stream where it's like, hey,
the racist and the woke guy.
Yeah. Like, we both support segregation. Oh, we both support this. We both support that. We both believe that white people have privilege.
It has to work both ways. If you're going to allow people to protest for whatever they want, then it should be on any political issue. So, again, we're not recommending this. It's just this is what she's advocating. Sensei Mike, thanks for shitting on me. I changed majors. Yes, we assume that. It's okay. You didn't take a vacation for 4 years in the Bahamas. We get it. It's okay.
Don't worry, I wasted 3 years of my life because I failed my GCSEs and A-levels.
To things that they care about. And living up to that vision is going to require that we are flexible, and it's going to require that we're creative. It's going to require that we're brave enough to stand up in the face of people who try to silence or delegitimize dissenting voices.
Oh my God.
Very interesting. Very interesting you say this.
Sometimes we will be the ones our students will rebel against.
Oh my goodness, they're going to rebel against your crap.
Yeah, of course, because she's like, listen, we need to set them up because if we have to take the hits. If they attack us and they win, then they will be fighting institutional oppression. It's like, wow, just kill yourself while you're at it, I guess.
Are you kidding me? Do not get out of the way of kids. Getting out of the way of kids is one of the dumbest things you could possibly do. Kids are dumb. Most kids are dumb.
No, I mean, like, if you
let them have free reign.
If you want to be attacked by someone, why don't you attack yourself? Why would you? I don't understand this. This is so stupid.
Yeah,
welcome to Social Justice, the video game.
She basically wants to just teach revolutionaries. She basically wants to just teach people who just tear down systems for no reason at all.
She's like, look, I'm an educator, and we have to destroy the educational system.
Yeah, but
what the hell?
She basically just said that it's a good thing if the students rise up and tear down the education system, even though it's a good system that teaches them how to do things and how to get jobs in the future.
It's racist in South Africa, and because they got shot, we need to have that here. Wait, what?
Yeah, it's a system, it's an institution, therefore it deserves to be torn down. That's kind of what she just said.
It's like making
if it involves white people, it's bad, and because I'm white people, I am bad and should be attacked.
That's pretty much the logic. Yeah, it's this backwards thinking of I'm advocating for something. Here's my argument. Oh, by the way, if no one wants it, I guess we should get rid of it. It's like, wait. Why? Why are you making this argument then? What's the point? Oh.
Yeah. If literally 5 minutes
destroy society is a go.
The idea as well that she's saying that kids should have free reign to do whatever they want instead of being in education, despite the fact she wants them to learn about social justice in education. So she's sending them out there not being educated on the ideal she's pushing anyway.
So it's a self-defeating premise.
Yes.
I see. You're an idiot.
I see you are retarded as well.
Here's Mr. M. I got a chant. We want the free shit. Yes, we do. We want the free shit taken from you. Okay. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I don't think she's advocating for that, but that's what it could possibly boil down to. If people are just rioting and looting these days because they like rioting and looting, they're enacting their independence to rebel against the system, I guess. That's a good thing. Yay, America.
You do.
Yeah, I don't know.
Of course.
Yeah. Shall we keep going?
Sometimes they're going to point out ways in which systems that we have created or in which we are complicit contribute to inequity. It's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be painful.
So if I'm not a student and I tell you you are contributing to inequity and horrible ideas of diversity and making people free, you're going to change your system. Great. Let's start the argument.
Oh,
I'd love to have
kids
that
are
argument.
stubborn. You realize that kids are stubborn and don't care a lot of the time about anything other than shagging and entertaining themselves. They have like at least decent grades so they don't have to take summer school.
Like she's literally saying, if we can be argued, we should go away. It's like, yeah, you should. That's exactly what bad arguments do. They should go away.
Yeah.
So she's advocating for her own destruction. It's amazing.
Yeah, kids might say that, you know, we are creating institutions which are racist and therefore we have to get rid of it. It's like, yeah, I want to say you're advocating for institutions that are now racist, that are now forcing forced diversity. Will you listen to me? Can you now tear down your structure because I'm 20 years old and technically a university student now?
It's amazing. No? She's pretty much invalidating everything she said.
Your giant conglomerate educational system is blocking the view of my ivory tower.
And if you could argue it, that ivory tower should come down.
I want to die by cop, and I want all my children that are your children, actually, they're my students, to die with me. But it's for a good cause. And ultimately, even though you die and everything goes up in flames, what comes out of it will be a better, more diverse, perfect world.
So what happens when you seek employment after that and the employer goes, hey, didn't I see you took part in that riot, that protest that turned riot and, you know, things got damaged like public property, and you'd be like, yeah, I attended, I promise I didn't do anything of that sort. It's like, that still seems reckless, and you sort of,
yeah, why would I ever want to hire somebody who does that?
Yeah.
Why would I ever want to hire somebody who just wants to tear down systems and stuff, who has a history of tearing down systems and imposing authority?
If you don't, they're going to tear down your system.
If I do, they'll tear down my system.
Well, it turns out you're an evil white male and you're going to get fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the fact that you're not white.
Yeah, most of the
time. Evil white.
Maybe you're internally white. How about that?
Yeah, or internally white.
You're subconsciously white.
The subconscious, that's right. You mentioned the subconscious. You have the subconscious is what really gets you. You gotta go to those re-education camps to get that nasty subconscious stamped clean.
It's like what's the word I'm looking for here? Gaslighting people. It's like, you're not actually racist in your brain, but in your subconscious, deep within your brain, you are racist.
Some students in Africa protested in Africa. Therefore, you should let me indoctrinate your kids. Well, thank you for your TED Talk. Appreciate it.
What a great insight.
As they push us to question our own assumptions and beliefs. But what if we change the way we think about rebellion in our kids?
What if you made rebellion more palatable? What if you made it more like instead of having high standards, we have a lower standards of rebellion. Like it's anything. If anything happens that you don't like, time for rebellion. Time to start tearing down things.
This is a horrible idea. Let's have kids rebel more. Let them get out of class more and do their own thing. It's like, no. We have institutions to control the mind, the focus of.
She's like, let kids out more so I can have a break. Because I'm a teacher and I hate these kids. Maybe if we get them killed in a protest, they'll go away.
I think that's where she's going from. Because she just said, they want to go. You all want to go protest? Yeah, have fun. Get out there. All you crazy kids that stay here, you get to debate everything while I sit back and listen to you while I don't know, tweet on Twitter or something.
Instead of actually teaching,
Here's
whatever
little
you're
Johnny smashing windows. Look at him and enforce his own authority. It's great. That's what we need. More independent thought.
I told my kids to go out and do something, which means they're independent. I taught my kids social justice, so they can be independent by listening to things I tell them to do.
When they thoughtfully push back against our ideas or the way that we do things, what if we chose to see that as a sign that we're doing something right?
Wait a second. Are you saying if some smart kid comes up to you and destroys your entire philosophy, that's a good thing?
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
means you're doing something right.
That's what I do on a daily basis. I just go up to my teacher and I say, listen, ma'am, I got street smarts. You don't understand what it's like. You should hear my story. Then I take her back home to my lightly ethnic environment, which is lower income, and I inspire her. And I'm like, yeah, this is why we need to stop teaching Afrikaans in South Africa in 1994. And she understands me.
Yeah, her almost over a decade of education and higher education, secondary education, and lower education, they mean nothing compared to your limited experience in street smarts.
Yeah, it's like, okay, the education system's really good, but if a kid that's uneducated can blow me the fuck out, then it's even better. I'm like, wait a minute, how does that work? That means that you're not that educated. What the fuck?
Stop tweeting all day and pick up a book and learn how to teach people. Maybe that's what.
Actually, don't do that. Stop teaching people and just tweet all day, because that's where you belong.
This is all inspired by a tweet. I keep forgetting that's.
Oh yeah, why
I'm
do you
more
remind me that?
inspired by my tweets than by the kids that I teach.
I forgot about that horrific reality Smud boy. That this whole TEDx talk was inspired because she forgot to fight on Twitter. That's where we are now. That's what professors do now. They get on. They make TEDx talks because they got in fights on Twitter.
No, but LitDev, you're forgetting. He ended the argument that social justice does not belong in our schools, and this is my rebuttal.
It doesn't belong in schools. Justice belongs in schools, not the social justice kind. This is ridiculous. How does she still have a job after doing all this?
And this all means that our kids should stop going into the classrooms and start protesting.
Liberated.
No, they're not.
I know it would be easier if their critical thinking skills manifested in more convenient ways. On their essays or their standardized tests.
What the hell are you teaching these kids?
That's how mine developed. I don't know what are you teaching these kids?
She just destroyed herself. It's like, yes, they could achieve all these skills much better by doing our curriculum.
Yeah, by following the teaching curriculum.
Research, learning how to write an essay, how to make an argument. Yeah, that's how they should do it, but maybe they might do it elsewhere by laying around in a field.
Maybe they could do it by going out, laying out in a field with a sign.
Amazing. Taker 610. Our children need training in walking, sign holding, and sign making. I've completed 2 tech degrees, but was never taught these fundamental skills. I know. What are we going to do with public education, huh?
Oh, well, you're no longer teaching people how to make signs. I think there's nothing we can do anymore. Public education is just beyond helping at this point.
There's always that joke about basket weaving and post-sec, but it's like, nope, you're not too far removed from making a sign with those baskets. Here's Mr. M again. Thank you, sir. They don't like the term riot. They prefer aggressive negotiations.
Oh, I also prefer aggressive negotiations as well.
They prefer enhanced protesting.
Oh boy.
Is that one step below or above Molotov cocktails? I don't know.
I think it's about the same level.
Oh, yeah.
I get it, but convenience and justice do not often go hand in hand.
Convenience and, again, she's using the term justice, not social justice.
Not justice, just social justice. That's what she means. Not justice. Okay.
Even then.
Although the justice is not all that convenient.
No,
it takes a long time to get in.
I would sit this lady down and again say, what is the point of taking your kids to an education? Oh, to get educated. So why does this matter?
Of course, she's not a fan of education. She's a fan of re-education.
She just said they would be better off doing essays and all these other things. So why do you want them to do these other things unless you just don't care about these kids' education?
If protesting does nothing or next to nothing, why are you teaching them to protest? It's a strange...
Because the whole point is to destroy these children. That's what they really want to do. They want to ruin their lives completely. Make them march for no reason. Make them go to school and be miserable. Make them have conflicting ideas. It's just awful.
Also, they can feel better about themselves.
Doing it.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Shiny. Yeah, but that's what effectively they're doing. That's the end result. That's what she wants.
Yeah, I agree with Smud. The end result is that you end up hurting and ruining these kids. Kids who go and take gender studies degrees. But guess what? That's not going to help them at all.
I would love...
You've wasted your education.
I would love this rebellious attitude to the entrepreneurial spirit, saying, you know what? I hate studying history. I hate studying this crap. I can start serving ice cream to people who want it down the street because I know there's a demand for it. I'm going to make 10,000 grand, the next year or so as a kid because I can see an opportunity as opposed to wasting my time in this classroom. That's the kind of rebellion I want to see. It's like while you were busy learning about apartheid, I was busy selling stocks or whatever. That's what I want to see. That's the rebellion I want to hear about. Not this. I stood around in a field with a sign.
Yeah, you learn how to stand around in a field with a sign. You learn how to walk down the street and shout things and chant rhymes and stuff. Well, someone else is over there learning how to, build their own business, create a lot of money, amass a large fortune, and then help people out. Like fund orphanages, dig wells in Africa and stuff like that. While you were just over there, just marching in the street.
What I would say is instead of going out and saying protesting, go out and make a real difference in the world. You can make such a difference by going out. There are programs where you can go to places in Africa and do things to help schools there, because obviously Africa has lots of issues. Not saying you should go to these places, but if you really wanted to make a difference in the world, you can make this difference. The problem is that social justice is lazy, and all they want to do is sit around in a field and hold a sign instead of actually going out, solving problems.
Here's a super chat from Alex Halo. Thank you, sir. Smub, hush. For to call it aggressive negotiate. Give me the food or die. Well, that's, not too far removed from what we played as such, but...
what you play, that's the way you play your character.
Well, food is very important to keep your HP high, so...
No. Wait, can we use it for healing?
Of course.
Why the fuck haven't I been using it? Now I need to go around stealing food.
My character sheet is full of food.
Like, Smud, give me a fucking steak.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm not going to get Smud steak.
I don't think that's going to happen. He literally massacred people for that thing.
He massacred... Well, he put a fucking steak in my helmet, so I don't know. Maybe just he wasted that on me.
I missed the last one, so I'm sure you guys had fun without me.
No, we need your help again because a certain person died.
Anywho, the point I was trying to make is that once you get a job or do things as an entrepreneur, you really are responsible for your time, what you do with your time. And if you think going out and protesting is worthy of your time, go for it. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably not. You're probably not going to accomplish much. And a person who is responsible with their time and their effort would not waste their time, would not do things that are useless. So here's Mr. M. Thank you, sir. Why work when you can be a professional victim? I don't know if they're professional victims per se. I think they're just getting their bodies out there in the streets or in traffic or wherever to raise awareness. But that's about it. And there's better ways to advertise, personally. There are much better ways to advertise with social media, with all sorts of advertising online. You can do all sorts of things. And standing around is one way, but it's very, 17th century? Who would you call that? The formation of cities and...
Lazy.
Lazy, it's pretty bare bones. It's pretty basic. You want to impact a lot of people in a very strong way. So unless you're protesting outside of your parliament or your legislature, you're not going to do much. You're just going to piss people off, and they're going to hate you even more. So,
another tip about protesting: don't do it in the middle of the road where you're going to piss people off.
Exactly.
Because that's happened before. I swear to God, last time that happened in York, I was so fucking pissed because I was late for college.
And when kids learn to think critically about the world around them, they become the kinds of engaged citizens who will recognize and question injustice when they see it and work to do something about it. Welcoming rebellion into our schools.
There's a good question. What's social injustice? I've never heard of that term before. Is there such a term? Or is it just assumed that social justice is going against racism and therefore racism is social injustice?
Well, I suppose they would think that racism is social injustice.
Racism's just injustice. There's no need to put the word social in front of it. By definition, it's just injustice.
She keeps using those two terms inadvertently. I just don't like that. It's just...
I don't understand what adding the word social to it has to affect the actual terminology.
It's two different ideas, unfortunately. We know what justice is. Everyone knows the legal system to a degree. And you don't start putting in some sort of societal belief that this is okay and not okay, as opposed to this is on the law books. And if you do that, you're going to jail. There's a big difference between not liking someone because of their skin tone and beating someone over the head.
Is going to require some rethinking about what teaching and learning look like. Because
teaching and okay, I'm going to let that fly because she's obviously being very general.
Crap.
There's this misconception that if we give students any wiggle room, they're going to walk all over us, and classrooms and dinner tables will devolve into total chaos. And
isn't that what she was just arguing?
This person has never had children before. I'm sorry, but she's never had kids.
Find any kind of reason or excuse to be lazy or to get what they want. If they want a chocolate, if they want a cookie, if they want anything. And this also extends to older kids as well, especially teenagers. If they have an excuse, they will fucking do it. You give them an inch, they'll take the mile.
If you have a safety chair and it has wiggle room, your kid is falling out of the safety chair, okay? It's very basic stuff. Kids love expressing themselves. Young adults love expressing themselves. It doesn't matter what the emotion is. It doesn't matter what the cause is. They will take it. Especially if you're leaning closer to the left these days. They will never stop. So, not sure she's grasping what she's saying there or the full extent of her teaching if she's been doing this for more than a year or two, if she's seen the results of people graduating at her school. I would be curious to see the people who graduate, though.
And if we expect kids to sit silently and passively receive knowledge from us, then their voices will always feel overwhelming. But if we accept instead,
so
is sometimes messy, that it requires opportunities to brainstorm and mess up and try again, that our kids dislike chaos and want to learn when they come to school, then we can set up schools to facilitate that kind of learning.
I don't know what she just asked for. Is this something like a gifted program? Like once a week you want to do something where it's off the wall and different?
She should have said, if we don't encourage children to speak out, then when they do speak out, it's going to feel overwhelming. It's like, but you're acting like we don't, like kids already don't speak out. Like you're acting like these, I don't know what the hell she's thinking. Honestly, it's just incredibly bizarre.
I think
she's twisting everything.
Well,
it's such a weird way.
She wants to advocate for critical thinking skills, and I don't think she knows how to get there. It's like she knows it involves writing essays and arguing and analyzing and using your brain, but at the same time, it also means saying no. I'm not doing the work. I'm leaving because someone got shot in another state, and I want to go stand around outside. Like it doesn't make sense to that, what she's trying to advocate for. Plus, there's the whole point of this. The kid's very smart. They can argue my point against me and succeed. And therefore I'm stupid, or I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just like, what? No, it's kids are very smart these days. They're smarter than me when I was that age. That's the inevitable conclusion of education. Kids get smarter earlier with technology and books and movies and what have you. We have all this wonderful knowledge. People ask questions faster and earlier. So this is going to happen naturally. Kids will raise their hands like, what was apartheid all about? How did that work and why? If no one cares, they're not going to ask the question. So bringing up history of these horrible things, sure, I think history should be taught. In what capacity? How much? How long? How far back do we go? I don't remember learning about the Soviet Union when I was in high school. It just wasn't part of our curriculum. And I remember some of my friends I grew up with, we didn't learn that, but other people from other grade schools did. They learned about Marxism and communism, what have you. So they didn't have access to all that knowledge. They didn't know the historical significance of Stalin, for example. They didn't know that. And we had to learn that independently, just because it was brought up by someone. But it wasn't common knowledge to us because we weren't taught it. Should we learn the big things? Of course we should. In what capacity should we learn about racism, though, and apartheid, and how that applies to society? I don't know. But lower than grade 9, I don't think so. Kids are just figuring themselves out and start throwing political ideas at them, unless like a little Ben Shapiro or something. And that's their whole goal in life, right? Is to write essays and argue, and that's fine. That's your thing. But I don't think that's the majority.
You got
of
me
people.
thinking Ben Shapiro.
Sorry.
Now you got me thinking of a little cute baby Ben Shapiro.
Well, if you heard his story, he started this all when he was in post-secondary education, and he just started writing for a newspaper at his school, and it was pretty much what he does now. He just reports the news and talks about issues, and he just kept doing it.
I think that, like, if you want to, like, talk about racism, talk about stuff like Jim Crow laws, talk about the Martin Luther King movement, talk freely about, like, how slavery was before the Civil War, talk about how, like, people were treated back in the day, and say, kids, do not treat people like this ever, and do not think that this kind of behavior is okay. That's perfectly fine. I'm fine with that.
But I think what she's advocating for social justice, we all know what social justice is like and what it entails, essentially.
She hasn't quite articulated it that way, though.
No, but we all know that in the end, it's going to have something to do with Trump. There's going to be, encouraging protests and all this shit.
So do me a favor and close your eyes for a second.
No.
And imagine schools where teachers are thought partners, letting students grapple with complex, hard issues and not necessarily giving them the right answers.
Thought partners.
Wait a second. Wait. Not giving the right answers? What the hell do you think teachers are there for? To give the wrong answers?
I don't think she's thinking very well.
I would hate to go to a math class and be taught the improper way to do calculus. That is just a waste of my time.
Where teachers are thought partners. I think what you're talking about is more on the lines of university. At least from my understanding of what university is supposed to be. I don't think this is something for 15-year-olds.
I'm all for having people think critically early on, but we're talking about higher level stuff that most kids probably don't want to do because they're too busy having fun at recess or playing soccer or track and field or what have you. So, yeah, great. If you want to do that stuff, I think all this stuff, like she's saying in theory, sounds great. It's like, yeah, we should teach these things, just not for the end results that you have in mind, which is being truant and getting run over by a car.
And imagine schools where we let students make choices. We trust them enough to do that. And we let them experience the consequences of those choices.
You do realize what the age of consent is, right? And the age of consent is because children aren't trusted to make choices.
With all of the messiness and the uncertainty that is bound to come with that. And whatever
That's
you
just
just
being
imagined,
ageist and oppressive.
it's not mythical. It's not unrealistically idealistic, because teachers
But it is
all
stupid.
over the country are already pushing the boundaries of what teaching and learning can look like with amazing results for kids.
Yeah, because of technology, not because of what they want to teach.
No, because of
It's-
social justice.
If you hadn't noticed, most kids are apathetic. It is only a very few that are willing to just say, let's go off and protest. Most kids are lazy and apathetic. They don't care.
If it's not fun, they're probably not interested. And if it's only a specific topic they actually like, they won't care.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to the standardized program of, do people like these things at all in the first place? Probably not. But, when do you teach calculus, if at all? Grade school? Probably not. Trig? Maybe not. I think trig is awesome, but, not everyone thinks the same as I do when I was in grade 7. So.
Yeah, I honestly hated essay writing until I was 14, and then I realized it was a fun gig.
Yeah.
Most of my writing when I was 14 is not very good by any metric, but it was a good starting point and a good practice.
All it takes is one teacher with a different perspective on something, and then go, wow, I never saw it that way. It happens with subjects, entire topics, even individual poems that you've never thought of a certain way before. Same with math, same with science. So.
Into history first because I played Age of Empires, and I thought, ooh, this is really cool. And then I realized, oh, my family has a bunch of video lectures from a guy named Lema Thompson who does history. I should watch those. And I found out how it was actually really fun because he dressed up in a costume and put on an accent and became a character from that time period to talk about it.
Teaching can be fun. Certain teachers go the extra mile because they love the topic.
Yeah, the only times he wore a suit was for if it was part of a costume or for the introduction. Every other time, dressed up like, hello, I am Barbarian Thompson, here to talk about the fall of the Roman Empire.
I remember my uncle in Ottawa. He was a math and science teacher for I don't know how many years, and he would do fun experiments. He would take kids out of the class and say, "Here's a tennis ball. I want you to throw that up in the air and see if it can last in the air longer than 6 seconds." All these kids launching balls straight up in the air, and they couldn't do it. He's, why can't you do it? And he had to explain it, the physics behind that. He would do crazy stuff like that, but that's fun. That's crazy and wild to take your kids out of the class and do something simple with an experiment. So if I had him as a science teacher, I would have probably gone into the sciences. And I did sort of go into them in general because I liked them. But I would have pursued probably a career in that. So it goes to show you any person with a certain insight into any topic can cause you to be inspired to do something that you really like or you never thought would be as cool as you thought it would be. That's what you need. You need good teachers, not teachers teaching particular topics earlier. I think kids are going to adapt themselves to whatever they like in the first place, politically minded or otherwise.
They're doing that in all kinds of schools, and there are countless models for teachers who want to get better at helping students learn in a way that's more authentic and engaging and empowering. I was reading a book recently. It's called The Students Are Watching. And it was by Ted and Nancy Sizer. And in that book, they said that the work of education is often described as a series of nouns, like respect, honesty, integrity. And they say those nouns sound really impressive, but often they fail to actually mean anything in practice. But verbs, they say, are active, no less demanding, but requiring constant engagement. Verbs are not structures, but rather engines. And so as I read that, I wondered, how do we make justice into an engine driving our work as teachers? What's the verb form of justice? I think there might be an answer to be found in the work.
Is anyone following this?
Yes,
No.
Somewhat. I still hate her use of the word justice, though. She's really annoying me. 'Cause we all know what justice means.
In her mind, social justice and justice are the same thing when they really aren't.
Well, all of a sudden we're talking about verbs. What's the noun version of justice? It's like, what? I know she's trying to say active and active, but this is all just kind of nonsense to me. It's well, kind of what's the point now? I know we're going to finish it, but
this is kind of like she's advocating for, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the gifted program or wherever you are, might have a different class or a different school you would go to, either half the year or once a week or what have you. And they would teach things like words, like what does the word influence mean? What does juxtaposition mean? I remember these words when I was growing up because I was taking these courses. And we would talk about what does it mean to influence people? How do you influence people? And that's where I learned about Aristotle and the modes of communication and what have you. So these are things that I thought, even though I got a score on some test that they were doing on some provincial standard, and I was like, okay, fine. So I'm allowed to go to this other school. And I was thinking, this is anyone can go to this class and pick up the same lessons I'm learning. It didn't have to be about getting a good score here or there. That's silly. Anyone could be learning these things. So if she's advocating for like once a week or an extra program here and there for kids to learn something about critical thinking, great. Talk about whatever topic you want. So long as it advocates for logical, deductive thinking skills, you're great. It doesn't matter what the topic is. And if she wants to talk about social justice or justice or whatever, it doesn't matter. You would be smart enough to figure that out. It's not about the topic. It's about learning things and how to learn. Using your brain.
In America, we have advanced placement. They're called AP classes.
Yes.
We have those.
So
I took all those. They're pretty good.
Get out of going to those
Dunn?
things in college.
Yes, we had that in Canada as well. It was called AB though, Advanced Baccalaureate or something like that. But it was the same idea. Yeah, you would skip a course in college.
Famously said that justice is what love looks like in public. And all of my nerdy English
Cornell
teachers
West,
in the
of course.
crowd
Justice
know
is
that
what love
can
looks like
be a
in
noun
public?
and a verb.
Is that what she just said?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
That is
but that's what she
weird.
said.
What does justice have to do with love?
You know
Most
Cornell
of
West
justice
is?
is not about love. It's about
Okay.
it's about equivocal retribution. It's about punishment. It's about resolution. It's about
It's about this
closure.
passion. It's about this passion. I remember,
Yeah.
what was it called? The Hateful Eight, where Oswaldo Mowbray, he explains it. He explains justice in a very, very interesting way. You wouldn't expect this from like a Tarantino movie, but he explains it pretty good. Where a mob could come in right now and kill you, and that would be mob justice.
School
But I could take you
bigger.
take you to I don't know,
Mean more
the judge.
than
Did he cut out now?
No, but there'll be normal justice. You could die either way. But the thing is, the difference between mob justice and actual justice is a dispassion. That your case was looked at and taken on and given a fair trial by someone who is dispassionate, who doesn't have a stake in you being punished or not. Whereas vigilantes, they don't care. To them, you are guilty whether you're guilty or not, and so they'll kill you for a crime you may or may not have committed. Now, justice is it's supposed to be a dispassionate look at the case being presented, and then after all the facts have been collected, the judge makes a judgment, and then that judgment is what you have to suffer, or you just go free. That's justice. That's the difference between mob justice and regular justice, is that dispassion.
No, but I think we're losing the thing here, and we've got to remember that if you've said multiple times, when she's talking about justice, she's talking about social justice. So she believes that social justice is love.
Yeah, but the thing is that she just said something really ridiculous, which was social justice is what love looks like in public, which is a whole new thing.
I'm just not even quite sure how to compute that. It's just kind of got spinning around my brain and just trying to think how did you come up with that?
Yeah. Ideals that social justice claims to espouse are good. It's just that they do a terrible job of executing them.
Hey, we should all be equal. Yes, I agree. Let's go discriminate against white people and then only give jobs to a certain race or minorities. Like what? I'm sorry. Excuse me. No.
All
It's
right.
like, oh yeah, I believe in equality. Oh yeah, but you over there, you're racist. What? I'm sorry.
So let's go for one more minute, guys, and then we can say goodbye.
Yay!
To Miss Chaffee.
Teachers in the crowd know that love can be a noun and a verb. School has to be bigger. It has to mean more than I teach my subject.
No, that's the whole reason why a school is there, to teach a subject.
Why does it have to be more than that?
Yes, it doesn't have to be more than that. In fact, if you are going out of your way to try and do more of something else, which ends up failing and means you do less of the core reason why you're at school, then that is a terrible thing to do. Like you just said, oh, well, this is wasting time when they could be doing other things which would be better educating them. But you should be educating them. That's the point. You're in a school to educate. What is this?
Don't schools already teach humanities anyway? Which is basically what she's yammering about.
That's all white stuff.
Humanity?
As well as
humanity is white stuff.
Well as ethics and values.
It's all white stuff. So we need to replace it with whatever she's talking about. I don't know what it is, but that's what I'm getting here. We need to protest anything that wouldn't be whatever she accepts as socially just.
People to change the world for the better. If we believe that, then teaching will always be a political act.
Oh boy, that's a bit pushing it there, lady. Okay,
That's what I'm saying.
Teaching will always be a political act. Where did that even come from?
Everything is politics with these people. Everything.
But no, it isn't.
That's a really dumb statement to make.
So steak eating can always be a political act.
Obviously, the left believes in educating children, and the right does not.
I guess learning football or playing soccer is a public or a political lesson. I don't.
Learning engineering is political. Really?
Yeah, there's lots of politics in integral calculus, of course.
Yeah, lots of it in math. Great.
You forgot that Trump is a very big part of maths.
Okay.
We can't be afraid of our students' power. Their power will help them make tomorrow better. But before we can do that, we have to give them chances.
Okay, I have a question. Do these look like kids that you would trust to make a better tomorrow?
Sure, maybe. I don't know.
Do they have the right power, though?
Okay. To change today, to say, at this age, are they of the age to think critically to actually start making change and progress? No, you know what? In the future, though, they will be when they grow up. When they are 18 to 20, then that's when they'll start making changes. But not right now.
You have no life experience in school.
Yes.
You don't know how the real world works. And simulating it through riots is not a good teaching tool.
Yeah, I was homeschooled until I went to college at 16. But yeah, it's not, like, from what I understand from what my sisters have gone through, no. It's, like, you have no effect on anything. You are not a consumer, therefore you do not have money, and you don't have political power, which means that they don't care. You are not even a sliver of gray on their pie chart. You are an ant screaming into the ether.
I just want to know what she means by power. Intelligence, body power. Like, what are you talking about? Going out into the public and screaming your head off? Like, what are you doing?
I just know the movie Bob has both of those things, apparently.
Yeah, large mass, very loud, talks very fast.
Yeah.
And that process should start in our schools.
And like Shrek.
Yay!
Everybody just claps.
Yay! Stand up and give her a standing ovation. Yay! Is she in Congress? Where is she?
She's in hell.
She's at the Democratic National Convention.
John F. Kennedy at the center, it looks like.
That was terrible.
John F. Kennedy Library Foundation. Okay.
X is the independently organized TED event.
We want our students to attack us in the streets.
Yeah.
Hooray! Stand up and clap for that. That's how sanity dies, with thunderous applause.
Well, that was interesting. That was a change of pace, I guess. For usually we cover bad videos. This was a bad video as well, but different context. She was serious. Like this is her life. She wants to teach justice to her kids, or kids younger than her grade 9s.
Anti-social justice warriors unite.
Yes.
Rise up, gamers. Defeat them. We will take back our country. The country of gaming. The Republic of Gamers.
ASJDBZ. Great acronym. Yeah.
Weaponize your autism. It'll be the power. That's what she wants us to do anyway, right? We're the next generation as students that will make the world a better place.
I'm not exactly sure what she wanted, but it's something about teaching kids differently, so could be good.
That was a rambling mess.
It was a bit self-aggrandizement. It was a bit
That's a good word.
generic.
Well done.
It was
Self-aggrandizement. I like that.
aggrandizement. Yeah, it's a fantastic word.
Self-aggrandizing glory seeker. Absolute horrid woman. Filth
you were
of
about
the
to say-
demonic realm which she came from, public schools.
I thought you were about to say whore.
No, horror. A continuing inspiration to her students. Real stand-up citizen.
She was colorful. She was very. She reminded me of a few teachers, actually. Not that I grew up with, that I met in Ontario. There's actually quite a lot of people like that. Have that same sort of mentality. They're very self-conscious of what they're teaching, and it's usually in the arts. So you wouldn't catch a philosophy or a math or physics teacher think like this. They're much more grounded and reasonable. So they don't want students to be rebellious, that's for sure. I don't think I've ever had a professor of mine recommend that ever. So maybe if she continued her education and went on to post-sec and taught some courses there, she'd have a different outlook on life. We don't know. Or she could be just as worse. She could be twice as crazy or twice as aggressive.
Twice the pride, double the fall.
Yes,
a little bit of pride,
exactly.
a little bit of pride in there. Yeah, I would say that's part of it. But she does. That's the thing. They mean well. They think this is the good thing to do next, to teach kids this. And I could say the same thing of any topic. Again, take an astronomer or a professor of physics. If only we taught math at age 7 and never stopped and kept going until we learned calculus at age 10. You're like, wow, that's a lot. Kids might not like that because they're too busy, running around a recess and trying to get beaten up. So they might have other problems. But I like the arguments for people trying to advocate for different education or new topics. Usually it's economics that I hear about, or coding skills, or art skills, or something. Sorry?
I said, well, who needs that? What we need to do is we need to encourage people to go chanting in the streets.
Yeah, well.
Who needs these educations?
It's pretty empowering when you write your first program, or you draw your first picture, or you solve your first math equation, or balance your first chemistry equation. These are cool things, and this requires your brain. So stuff like running around outside and holding signs and getting angry, not the best use of your time. Anyway, thanks guys for a full house. I wasn't expecting you all to tune in. I really appreciate that.
Of course.
Yeah.
The force is with you, young Smudwalker.
He is known as the Smud Father. What are you
The
talking
Smud
about?
Father.
Or the
Excellent.
Smud Daddy. Or the Smud Daddy.
I don't agree to the Smud Daddy. I know. I don't agree.
Real smudchulism has never been tried.
Yeah, only in
Smud
Canada.
Trudeau is-
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any other suggestions, please join the Discord and come to the suggestions section there. Leave whatever ideas you like, whether they're videos or blog posts. We're happy to read them and go over them. I think we have one more. I don't know if we want to do one later this week, but if you guys have any other ideas, we're going to be covering as best we can. I think we're doing a movie night soon, and that's with Voice in the Radio.
In the room. Yeah, we're doing The Room on Saturday at 30 EST, I believe.
Personally, I would have voted Birdemic. There's more tits.
I'm glad you
Bird.
you remembered Dunn, because I'd almost forgotten.
Oh dear.
I'm blessed with blessed and cursed with an eidetic memory sometimes. At least like a photographic one.
Dunn was probably the one which, at the end of every class, he would probably say, "Hey, teacher, didn't we have homework?"
No, I am not that bad.
I really want to do
I just
some
remember
calculus.
fun events because they are fun events. No, I hate calculus. I hate math.
Oh yeah.
A teacher forgot to collect our essays.
I wasn't that bad. I just dropped my early done essay occasionally, since most of the time I was late.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon, and have yourself a great evening, okay?
Yes, and
Alrighty.
keep